You're in charge.
There you go. We're live. So, yeah. Oh, and as we go, like, all right, there you go. I was gonna say your camera froze for a bit there, and obviously, as people can see on the stream, Josh down there doesn't have a camera.
No, it's just froze.
What a peasant.
Yeah.
It's just froze.
Left it in Sheffield.
Pawned
I
it.
think. I
He
can't
pawned it.
find it.
Pawned it for more models.
Yeah, I needed that extra Candice chariot.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome guys to the stream. As you can see, we're joined today by Barney once again.
Hello.
So we're going to be going over the GBHL finale, the GBHL 2018 year as a whole, and then we've got a few questions, and there's a few new things that have happened since our last stream, so we'll be discussing those. But yeah, so I guess first thing, what have you guys been doing over the Christmas break, SBG wise? Anything at all?
Not much, to be honest. I was painting a Bilbo model today.
Which one?
Right. The old Bilbo. Because I'm planning
Okay.
on bringing him into the West with my Rivendell army.
He's super
He's
good.
he's now an independent hero, and I can bring him. And I want to be one of the first people to do that.
And he's
even
got
though
the
Arwen
ring
is-
as well.
Even though Arwen's definitely better for 20 points more, I'm bringing Bilbo.
You're not bringing Arwen as well?
No, I'm bringing Elrond. So, not as many points left after that one.
That is fair enough. What about yourself, Barney?
Basically nothing. Like, because I've only just moved house, my painting stuff is not set up yet. So I spent the tail end of last year trying to get everything I could possibly need painted. So hopefully I don't have to do much painting this year. But
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. Probably last about 2 months, and then we'll. And something really well, probably will last until the new book comes out, and then something will be really cool. I'll have to do some painting.
Yeah, the Gondor War book.
I've done a bit of playing and some testing for the Masters, but not very much.
We haven't played because our club's been off. Because the day that it fell on was Christmas and then New Year's Day. So,
Yes.
not open then.
So
Are
we've
you
got.
still doing your Mahud, Gethin?
I've not really done much over Christmas, I'll be honest. The only thing I've really painted, SBG wise, has been my 160mm challenge. The brandy water. Yeah, brandy water.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Brandy wine, isn't it?
The ferry.
I remember. No, the Buckleberry ferry. that's what
Buckleberry.
it was. You said ferry and I got it.
Yeah. I do my Buckleberry Ferry diorama, and then I just picked up something from my 40k orc, so I'd be painting that. But yeah, that's it really.
Oh.
So, first thing we're going to be talking about are the new things that have happened over the past month. So, first thing will be this guy, which is Iralas. Don't know if you guys have you got it on your end.
I'll pull up the
If not, you can pull up the stream.
Stream on, so I can actually see what's going on.
Yeah. Make the image slightly bigger, it might be easier to see at that point. I should probably
I've got it.
well prepared get it on myself.
Iralas's Blondie McBlonde boy, isn't he? There we go.
That dude.
Yeah. So this guy, just before Christmas, this came out?
Something like that.
Yeah, so he was spoiled at Throne of Skulls, right?
Yeah.
The profile was.
Oh yeah, because there was a massive, a leak, wasn't there, from,
Yeah, someone sold one when they weren't out yet.
wasn't it in, it was in America?
One of the conventions in America. I can't remember what it was. I can't remember. But yeah, one of the conventions in America, they the pack with Denethor got sold early, and it shouldn't have been. So.
And they also showed off the Azog and Thorin diorama, didn't they?
That looks pretty cool.
Which was a shame because, it got leaked, which was a shame because everyone got there on the Saturday morning having seen the leaked picture, and it was you could tell Jay and Rob wanted to announce that at the seminar that night. It was kind of a downer, kind of sucked. Hopefully someone got shouted out for that, because that would have been amazing to see that for the first time. Yeah.
So what do we think to this guy?
Nah. If he was in any other, it's the classic Gondor thing. If he was in any other list, you'd be like, wow. But because he's Gondor, it's they've got so many already.
It's
Wow.
who would-
Another 3 might hero with a random special rule.
Yeah,
Just
Gondor special.
besides,
How much March access do they have? That's the only thing I can see looking at this. It's
Pretty
yep.
sure
Madril?
Madril has it, which is immediately him over this guy.
I think Ingold's got March and Strike. but I don't
Yeah, I
think
think so.
Huron's got March.
Or does it Ingold? Let me check. Ingold might have defense.
Maybe. But yeah, they've definitely got quite a bit of March. Would you take this, except for a themed list? Would you take this guy over any of the others? It's like,
You take him over a few. I don't know. It's just that Madrill comes in first.
yeah,
and then
Madrill's
the rest-
always
the
like
rest-
pretty much always first. Then you want something big generally in Gondor now, either Boromir, Gandalf, or Aragorn.
Ingold has defense, by the way, strike and defense.
Oh, okay, so he doesn't have March. Okay, so he's one of the 3 knights with March.
If you're doing the Gondor Horde list where you don't run like Aragorn or Gandalf or someone, then he's just another really good hero.
Yeah.
And have lead your army. So he's pretty good. He's 5/5 too, which is something a lot of Gondor heroes don't have.
Oh, isn't like I know Madrill's 4.
Madrill's 4, Kyrion's 4, Ingold's 4. I think it's just
Oh, okay.
Huron, Faramir,
Okay, so that's the
and the
main
Knight of the White
difference
Tower. Yeah, he's 5/5, whereas
there.
everyone else. is
That's
5/4.
quite good.
Yeah, it's a deal. It's a big deal.
Guess because he's
He's got
sitting
one
on
guard
guard,
as well,
isn't
which is nice.
He's better in Good v Evil because it's actually like more relevant. Like if you're on blue, you're going to be hitting elves a lot, and he's probably not going to win that many fights anyway with his 5/5.
Yeah.
But if you're going into evil, he's winning against all warriors and tying or beating with a lot of heroes.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, he's a pretty good ring wraith basher / like keep them in place
Yeah,
kind of guy. He's 5/5, got 3 might, he's got bodyguards, so he can just charge them every turn, and because he can shield.
I was gonna say his shield does a strength 4 hit as well.
Yeah, so you can just 4 dice shield for the 6, and then if he wins, do like a random strength 4 hit.
Yeah.
Do you guys shield most turns with this guy though?
I think it
Depends.
depends what you're trying to do.
If you've got a spear and a banner, you probably wouldn't, right? But if you don't have 5
Yeah.
of those, you just shield.
Yeah, if you got a spear and a banner, you got 4 attacks anyway. Pretty much, there's no point shielding.
Or you could just stick him on a flank on his own with no spear.
Yeah.
A banner in range, and he's rolling 5 dice to win at 5/5.
Yeah.
He can hold down like a
You
full
can hold flank.
on his own.
Yeah. He's probably quite good just sitting in a doorway or something, like in one of the Osgiliath ruins. You just put him in the doorway and have that
Yeah.
stupid doorman thing where they're just running 1 or
Just-
2 guys into him every turn and they're just bouncing off.
Do you still get defending in a doorway?
I think
Was that
the rules for
removed?
defending the way have gone, but
Thank God.
it doesn't matter. It's still a
It's
Choke
still
on.
choke, yeah.
point.
He's okay.
He's fine. I agree completely with Josh. It's very much a option paralysis of too many 60-ish point 3 might
Mhm.
Gondor heroes. Like the 5/5 is probably the most relevant bit on him. His special rule is cool. I like it.
It's not gonna break the game, but
It's not going to break the game. Which, well, I mean, that's what you want from a special rule. You want it to be cool and not completely busted.
yeah, and it's
Looks like he doesn't have strike.
Amusingly, the bit that I'm most happy about with the release of this guy is that he comes in a box with a Denethor that's really, really cool.
that Denethor is really nice. Yeah, I think it's who's posting up all the pictures of the Gondor stuff with the white top, the tree.
I
on
know
the
who
clip.
you're talking about.
Is it
Oh yeah,
Tom?
this is the guy that's all of the OSL, the lighting effects on the torch and stuff on the Denethor, and
Maybe.
it looks a bit like.
Is it Tom
I've seen,
Thor?
that Denethor paints up so nicely.
Yeah, it's Tom 4.
Yeah, he's done a really nice one.
Just posts and shows everyone
But
up.
yeah, I definitely agree with Ben Bowles. He needs to stop posting because showing everyone up.
That's the real reason none of us have done any hobby over.
Yeah.
He's been posted, none of us had the drive.
Yeah.
Hey Chris Murphy, how you doing, buddy? But yeah, I guess not really much else to say. So that was before Christmas, and then we've had 3 releases, or 3 announcements, not released, over the past week, because there was the Forgewood Open Day, but I think it was... I know that these weren't really announced beforehand, except the Gondor War book. So, first one, which was thrown up on the stream, there's the General's Handbook, or Accessories Pack is coming back.
Hey.
So, that's going to have the updated reference sheet, the updated scenarios, and also a bunch of tokens, which is very useful. I've got the old one, and the tokens, I don't use them all the time, but they can be useful in
I just want to
quite a
open
few
the
games.
scenarios.
And yeah, the scenarios are a big thing. I'll
I
probably
didn't
pick
get
it up for that.
Time, but yeah, I'm gonna pick it up for the scenarios.
Yeah, I didn't get last time either, just because it looked a bit fiddly. But I've seen a couple of people now with those big, like, sort of, well, little A5 plastic binders with like
Yes.
inserts for them.
I know Calman's got one like that. It's just very useful.
Those are quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just much easier than having to go to the index for bloody scenarios in the rulebook every day.
They're in such a difficult spot. I mean, you got the bookmark, which makes it a lot easier, but they're right in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't like lean it against other things.
It's good because you can just put the scenario card on the side of the board, so both you and your opponent can just check it.
Yeah, that's the.
But
yeah
hopefully they do more than one run, which I assume they will because it's the new edition.
Yeah, I imagine this will stay in print.
Well, it'll go out of stock a couple of times before it stays because of
the classic.
Yeah, the classic Middle Earth right now. Yeah. So moving off of them, we've got the Three Hunters, which definitely the best Gimli they've ever done, and I love the Defenders of Rohan Gimli.
Ooh.
I think
It's
that
a
looks
bold
so
name,
good.
but that Gimli is really nice.
Yeah. Not so sure on the Legolas, but I think that's just the camera angle.
I think a lot of that is the paint job. The move, it's got some nice movement for like a relatively static Legolas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Legolas is the least nice of all the three,
Mhm.
but
Yeah, I think the Aragorn's really good as well.
they just needed more of these models out because like some people have been saying stuff like we've already got loads of these models. It's like you do on eBay.
Yeah.
Not Games Workshop doesn't sell like any. It's like the Minds of
If you've
Mario
been
ones.
collecting for years, you've had access to loads, but right now there's only the plastics, which came out with the first film, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and these guys are all plastic, which is super awesome.
Yes.
They're like really, really nice modern plastics.
So
The same
now
thing as, like Gandalf.
I was gonna say we got plastic of the Three Hunters, plastic Gandalf, and plastic Pippin,
And plastic fading.
and Theoden now. Yeah.
And then we've got all of the plastics that came out with The Hobbit, like original Legolas, Tariel,
Yes.
etc.
It's just nice to be able to buy.
Oh, and Denethor. Oh no, is Denethor resin?
No,
He's
red.
resin.
Yeah.
It's just nice to be able to buy Fellowship models that look nice from Games Workshop
Yeah.
and actually support them rather than
Yeah.
going like, well, I really do want to support you guys, but I don't want to buy that Minds of Moria Fellowship set.
Yes.
So.
And also, this will be on the website, whereas the Three Hunters at the moment is One World exclusive,
Yeah.
which
so
I assume they'll stop selling.
I don't think so. Like
No?
it's just another sculpt variant.
But
Like
doesn't it take up a? Because I know they have slots on the website. I assume they have slots in the store as well.
the special edition ones take up slots. If they do, it will go assumedly to be replaced by another special edition, possibly for another game. But we've got quite a lot of special edition stuff in Warhammer World at the moment for Lord of the Rings, so it wouldn't surprise me if another game needs to get some love for a little bit.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, no, but either way, oh, ow. That was funny bone. Yeah, so these are 30? 25?
I think they're 30, 35, somewhere around that
Yeah.
region.
I think they're 35, but that might be like the Azog foreign.
So that's like £12 a model.
Yeah, fine.
£12.
Completely fine.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I decided for this one I didn't go with the stock photo, Josh, because I think it's I think this one's a lot better. And we got the Gondor War book, amazingly modelled by Rob Oldman. Yeah, let's see. Oh, hey neighbor Dan. Yeah, so it's just him.
It just looks like a meme waiting to happen, doesn't it?
Please don't ever say you fondle Jay's 300.
Yeah, they are amazing models. Probably won't see them at either of the tournaments this month because they won't be out for a while. So Jay's the only one who'll have access to them, I assume.
Yeah, unless he wants to bring them along.
Were they on pre-release with the Azog and Thorin?
I don't
Like,
think so.
I don't think so.
The Azog and Thorin.
I think it
I've
was just
seen
Azog.
people painting the Azog and Foreign, and I haven't seen anyone.
Any pictures of 300s?
No.
That is a good point.
So I would assume that it's not out yet. So
Yeah.
either waiting for the Gondor War release or the GT.
Possibly, yeah. We could
One,
go on
two.
sale at the GT.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Gondor at War.
That
Yeah, Gondor at War. We haven't talked about it yet, but I don't know how much there is to talk about.
No, I was gonna say
Apart
so.
from the fact that it's goddamn humongous.
186.
28
Oh.
pages. It's massive.
128.
Presumably that's campaign stuff.
It's the most. It's got the most like
Scenarios.
scenario-esque bits in any book they've ever published.
There's
a lot of scenario.
Yeah, from what they said on the stream, I think people worked out there's about 34 scenarios.
Quite a lot.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll solve the problem of people complaining on the Facebook pages that you can't do Legolas and Gimli in the Army of the Dead.
Oh, alright. I thought you were just going to leave it as people will stop complaining. I was like, what? You do know what the internet is, right?
It's that specific one because it pops up. And it's
yeah, I guess a lot of people complain and everyone's just like, well, wait for Gondor at War, and they're like, but I don't want to. It's like, well,
yeah, I guess if you want to play the Army now, it's kind of a problem.
Yeah.
So what?
I wish this would stop doing that.
What were the armies that they showed on
Stream?
Like, what were the ones from the book that they showed?
I don't.
Did any of us watch the stream?
No.
I watched a bit of it, but I don't think they actually used the new rules, did they?
I don't know.
I don't know. They played
with
some Gondor-y armies, but I don't know if they played with anything from the book. So.
No, it's Gondor and Morannons.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't know if anyone. David Whittaker is in chat. I assume he'll have watched.
We'll get created at some point.
Yeah. And hey, Dave Shearer as well. Welcome, guys. But now I only watched the first part of Rob's talk.
Yeah.
So wasn't the entire thing.
I don't know. I've got like a big pile of Gondor models in my like awaiting painting.
Yeah.
Pile, just sitting until find out what we think's gonna happen in the book.
Well, I don't really have much interest in Gondor myself, so.
That's fair. They are like the vanillariest of good guys.
I'll be watching with interest, but
Yeah.
I'm not playing them. I built an elf army and a Candish army, started it before the rules came out as my new armies for the edition, and that worked out pretty well. So I'm going to be running with them, but
yeah.
I'm pretty interested in how things develop with them. I still think God of the Phantom Court are probably the best things there, but we'll see if any like hero choices come out.
Yeah, be interesting if anything else comes out that changes that.
Okay, so Jay definitely confirmed the 300s thing. Wasn't there something about Grimwald on a horse?
Nah.
I got a message saying Grimwald on a horse was mentioned.
Absolutely can't be real.
Like,
I don't believe it for a second.
like,
I feel like
yeah.
troll.
Can you confirm or deny this, Dave?
I mean, Dale got a banner, so anything could happen.
Yeah, and a warhorn. Don't
That's the
think
name.
about that.
Justice for Grimbold.
It's the next meme.
Yeah.
If only other people cared.
Yeah.
Fryden has a horse. Grimbold should have one too.
Grimbold never has a horse. That's just mean, Chris.
That's Gilray's in the chat too.
Hey, James. So yeah, I don't think. Does anyone else have anything to add? I guess one thing for Gondor at War is there's quite a few new Gondor stuff, but there's only been the two Mordor heroes, right?
Yeah, I'm hoping we get some like cool bad guy stuff.
I hope we get some cool non-Mordor stuff, because obviously it's Gondor at War. I think it was between Faramir losing Osgiliath and them storming the Black Gates is Gondor at War. So there's a lot of stuff like other armies, which would be cool.
We've had the
I've got the War Mummock, yeah.
Is the other thing that we've had.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, hopefully this.
Yeah, that's a good point from Hickson T. Gondor's always had loads of heroes.
That's Tim Hickson, pretty sure.
Yes, that would make sense.
That's just,
Hey Tim.
that's just true of the good guys in general, right? It's like it's a fantasy story, and the fantasy stories are always about the heroes in the good side, and it's really hard to write lots and lots of compelling bad guys because they always lose.
They also don't really need it because Gothmog and Morannon Orcs are still really good, and the Witch King with his crown is disgustingly good. So they're kind of still I don't know what more you could add to make that list much better.
I guess the things you can add are like generic utility things, right? Like
Yeah.
Gothmog Force is a really cool model.
Yeah.
Things of that nature where they're not really a named character,
Mm-hmm.
but they do still kind of do the whole we're the Horde
Yeah.
kind of thing.
It'd be cool to see one thing that's kind of strange, or not strange, but I'm pretty sure you can't ally things like freeway allies. So you can do Mordor and Harad, and then you can do like Harad and Easterlings, but you can't do Mordor, Harad, and Easterlings, even though all three were at the Pelennor. So
Can you not?
I'm pretty sure you can't.
I'm pretty sure Mordor and Easterlings are allies, right?
Green. I thought they were yellow. Let me double check.
Yeah, so let's see.
Maybe it's just Candish that I'm thinking of.
There was talk of other named Rohan profiles. That'd be cool.
Oh no, you are right. Mordor can green with Easterlings.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh, it's like Far Harad and Candish and things like that.
yeah.
Is it Corsairs too? Yeah, Corsairs can't ally with Mordor.
Let's see, we got.
It's because they die before they get to fight with them.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
surely they fought at other points.
Let's see. Jay said most armies involved will get a new profile. It'd be cool to see some Easterling love. That's true. Easterlings. So what would it be? Easterlings, Corsairs, Candish, Harad, Mordor.
Candish are very loose. I don't know if Candish deserve anything.
Wasn't that canned up, Pelennor? Or am I being
I
stupid?
think they were up at Dale, but they're like
Okay.
one line in the book, so
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna. I play
Well,
them, I'm not
they're
gonna
on the
pretend
map.
really any
They're a
justification.
big area on the map. What are you guys planning on taking to GT? I have no idea. I
Elves
think
and
it's
Candish.
too early to plan the GT for me.
Josh, on the same list forever.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
I'll probably change my mind by then though.
So, I guess we should move on to the first main topic, which is the GBHL finale. So that was Chester in Flames, I think I called it.
It's your tournament.
Yeah, it's fine. Forgotten the name. I'm pretty sure it's Chester in Flames.
Yeah, I think it was Chester and Flames.
Yeah, so that was obviously in Chester, which I ran. It was the last one just went tournament.
And we attended.
Yeah, both you guys attended very kindly. So it was 650 points. The limitations were Tom Bombadil and Golberry were banned, and then if you took a named hero, you had to take 12 warriors before you could take another named hero.
Out of interest, why did you ban Tom and Goldberry?
Because I wanted to play them.
Nah, I don't like the way that they play in the game. I've banned them at all tournaments, not because they're banned in GBHL, but because I don't like how they interact in the game and how they just nullify your opponent, and there's no initial counterplay to them, whereas pretty much every other thing in the game has counterplay.
I mean, like, Tom and Goldberry have actual counterplay now, though, right? Because they don't last forever, because they're basically just ring wraiths.
Yeah, but they've still got, what, 16 and 12?
It's 15 and 10, I'm pretty sure.
15 10.
Yeah, it's not forever.
It's also... It's not fun. It's also why it's why the tournament was under 700 points, to stop Smaug. Because, once again, he's not fun. And I don't like Smaug, Sauron, Tom Golberry at events.
Yeah, justice for Tom.
But I don't know.
I think Tom is like actually a very competitively viable model in normal lists.
If it is used more in the competitive scene, there's like a lot more people taking it. I'll probably not ban it on my events, because if it's being used a lot, obviously people want to use it, and they will be relatively balanced.
I know I'm like quite for letting people play everything at the start of the new release and seeing if it's actually broken still, because
that's fair.
lots of other stuff has changed as well. So like I don't think the whole old like Treebeard power combo where you just stacked onto one hero is as good.
That doesn't work anymore.
No. Yeah, and then there was the limitation.
So nobody had any of those models.
Which ones?
The Smaug, Tom, Goldberry. I mean,
I
I
was happy that there was no Smaug, because Smaug is, I agree, bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't like playing
it's
it.
fun to play once, and then you play it 2 times in a row, 3 times in a row. It's like, huh.
The best was, I think you were in the conversation at Throne of Skulls when we were at the What's the restaurant next to the Premier Inn?
Beefeater?
Beefeater, yeah.
Well,
You know where we were at the Beefeater on the Friday?
yeah.
Yeah, and there was the conversation about just like how people just don't like Smaug. We were just talking just like, yeah.
I think the model is cool. The
Yeah.
problem is that the counterplay to the model is really boring.
Yeah.
It's like it just completely warps the game and you're not really playing Lord of the Rings. It's a bit like why I don't like all Fell Beast is because I see why they're fun, but it's in my mind not how I want to be playing Lord of the Rings.
Gethin's the same. Gethin hates All Hero.
Yeah, I hate All Hero. That's why I never run
It
it.
bothers me sometimes as well.
Obviously, it's some people enjoy it, some people find it fun.
I
but
think it depends on your. A lot of it I think
playstyle
depends on
stuff.
what other games you've played, because like there's lots of people that come from systems where you have like 6 models,
Yeah.
and your like, control of those models is really important. Whilst I like having like way more than that, so that if I mess up one of my moves, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world.
I count all Eagles as All Hero, so don't like that either. Sorry, Dan.
Dan Stockdale plays it too.
Yeah,
So, got some personal vendetta against those Eagles.
but no.
There was another rule, wasn't there?
But yeah, the other rule was the limitation. So if you took a named hero, you had to take 12 warriors before you could take another named hero. I guess I wrote your list, Josh, so it didn't really affect you, but I guess you could still have some opinions on it. But Barney, how did that affect your list? Actually, I'll throw up your list.
I mean, I had to put Rohan in the bin because everything that you want to do with Rohan is like you have
Heroes.
Yeah.
you have like 20-ish warriors that you want to play, and then after that you just want to stack heroes. And so at 650 you want to go like 4 heroes and 20 guys because you want Merry and Theodred on top of your Gamling and Theoden. So it just made that list unplayable.
Fair enough.
So that was
Pretty
a bit
much.
bad.
It felt like it just been certain lists, like All Hero. You just like you can't do that, but then others it didn't really affect.
Yeah.
Like
Good.
most standard like battle line lists tend to take 12 warriors for every 2 named heroes. It's like it's not that big a deal.
Yeah.
And then you go and you don't have many more than the 2. Like some lists go 3 and some lists will push it to 4. But for the most part, yeah, it's fine. Like even Goblin Town, they're not running that many named heroes, right? They're running with captains too. So it didn't really.
Yeah.
I don't know. You wrote my list, it definitely didn't affect mine. But,
Yeah,
I didn't have too much of a problem with it when I was writing my own list to the event.
I think it made writing lists for anything that wants to take generic heroes a lot easier. So like this Goblins list was not even affected by it in the slightest because I've got 2 shamans.
I also think the change to heroic tiers helped make it easier to build around.
Yeah, definitely. Because you're like playing slightly less heroes anyway and stacking out with bands.
Yeah, because I guess I think most people had like at least 1 hero of valor, so that made it.
I was expecting there to be like quite a lot of Angmar.
People just don't own the models, I think, for it right now.
Yeah,
And people aren't as interested in it.
it's
like
it's a lot of basic orcs to paint. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's also just a playstyle thing. Like I like that kind of shutdown style, but it can make the game really suck for your opponents. Like we played a couple guys at Stockport, and they were the nicest guys. It was the Stockport doubles. They were the nicest guys I could have played. Like they were so friendly, and I enjoyed the game so much. If anyone else had have played that list, I probably would have hated that game.
Well, didn't they? I think it's the first ever team or player that has won most sporting with a shade or something like that. They won the most sporting
They had
prize.
straight Angmar with like a Barrow White, the Dwimmer Lake, and a shade or something like that.
And Burder.
But yeah, something like that, and they won most sporting. It's like it was incredible. But that type of style where they literally your models exist just to stop your opponent from doing things, it can be really unfun. So
I think James Long is the only other person that's won most sporting with a shade. 'Cause I'm
Oh, is
pretty
he
sure
done
he
it with a shade?
won most sporting with Corsair with Reavers in old edition.
Reavers with a shade.
Oh yeah, he did, didn't he?
He's just that nice.
I was expecting like a Larry took like 7 shades to a 700-point tournament or something. But yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right about the James Long thing. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with what Tim's saying in the chat that most hordes generally are.
Oh,
Yeah. Is
fix
it?
that, Gethin?
I was gonna say, is it me a lot louder than them, or they allow different volumes to each other. So
Yeah,
it's
we're in a
easier for me to
Discord
change
called
mine.
Gethin streaming, so
Yeah.
it's all down to him, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I just mess around with the Discord settings.
Come on, get your mix decks out.
You think I'm that high tech?
You were saying though, Barney, about what Tim was saying in the chat about the horse.
Yeah, so I think what he's saying about how that sort of format benefits horde forces is definitely true, because you're taking a lot of things like shamans, shades, basic captains to fill out your lists, so you're going to need less named heroes, which I think was pretty true of what we saw.
Yeah.
Although actually there wasn't that many hordes thinking about it, because I know that the only person that had more models than me was James Braund.
Was it? I think was Ziggy running Goblin Town?
Yeah, it was Goblin Town.
He definitely had more models than you.
I probably have more models than me as well. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, but
how's that for volume now, by the way, Matt? Sorry, go on, Josh.
Sorry, what I was going to say is most army lists are running like 2 to 3 warbands at that point. It's like climbing to the 3rd warband, like trying to fill it out. And it's called, if you're running a single unnamed hero, like let's say you're playing Eastlands, you've already got one named hero. You know, you're not running into problems with that. If you're playing Gondor, and Gondor's a bad example. Like, any army that wants to run a single unnamed hero is like, it's not having any problems with it. Basically, you're running Azog's Legion, you want a Gundabad captain in.
Yeah,
it's fine. It didn't. I don't think it impacted.
Yeah, I think like the lists, it's probably like most restrictive on are ones like Gondor and like maybe Hobbits or something like that, where you're wanting to take a huge amount of named heroes and
Ian
then
Speller had Hobbits, didn't they?
really max out your warbands. I mean, if you go down the approach of like just spamming everything with your named heroes, then it's probably fine, but it's probably worse for those lists where you want like 6 dudes and a hero. So like probably like the Rohan list is probably the best example. So like you only want a very limited number of cavalry models.
Yeah.
Probably same for like Rivendell Knights as well at that points value.
Yeah. To address Tim's point, how do you handle named heroes that are independent or minor heroes in that format? The heroic tiers didn't matter, so if you took a named minor hero, you had to take 12 warriors before you could take another named hero. However, that's not, I guess that's not the best way to explain it. So, if you had like Theodred, you had to take 12 warriors before you could take Theoden. That doesn't mean if you took Eowyn, you wouldn't be able to take any more named heroes. What it would be is you could have Theodred, Eowyn, and at least 12 warriors, type thing. So you don't have to have 12 warriors in that named heroes warband.
It was for each
anywhere in the list.
It was anywhere in the list.
Hero 12 hero, and then you'd need another 12 before the next hero. So if you wanted to take Eowyn, it would lock you out unless you had another hero that was leading 12 as well.
Yes.
So
yeah.
It was one of the other things it did actually, talking about independent and minor heroes, is it like made some of those less valuable, but most of them are unnamed.
Yeah.
So
but
one thing that were named only showed up once, so that you could typically build them in anyway. It's like if you're going to take Gollum in a Goblin Town list, again, you're not having too many problems with the restriction anyway. So
yeah, but you couldn't run Fellowship. Fellowship was impossible. Thorin's Company was impossible as well. But that was just
you just like went around stamping on people's theme.
Yeah. So prepare to tournament. Got no time for theme. Oh God. Yeah, let's see. Ziggy. I think Ziggy had like 83 models.
Oh, just as a heads up, Tim. It was 12 for each hero named hero past the first. So if you did Theoden and Eowyn, you'd only need 12, not 24.
Oh, yeah.
And if you wanted to just take one named hero and nothing else in the list, I'm trying to think of. Let's say it was 700 points, you could just take Smaug. But if you wanted to do, say it was high, you wanted to do Smaug and then like Groblog or someone like that, you'd have to take 12 before you took Groblog.
You could even imagine a scenario that Merry's a minor hero. You could take Merry, Eowyn, and 12.
Yeah, and for example, you've mentioned Grey Company. Was it Dave Shearer took Grey Company, he took like Aragorn and then just Dunedain, and that's because he can take Aragorn before just without having any warriors.
Which is why he didn't have to add it to the list, because
Yeah, he couldn't take the second one.
So it was definitely effective, but you can still play it. But yeah, but now I put that in mainly partly because I don't like All Hero. Honestly, I don't like All Hero, so I wanted to remove it from the tournament. Which
I don't think it hindered anyone's ability to compete in any way, so I don't think it's a restriction. I think it's an interesting one.
Yeah, I always like doing something a bit different on my events. So
I mean, like, I think it's really important to make sure that all the 100-pointers have like different restrictions and different scenarios and different like little bits that make them a bit more cognitively challenging, because otherwise you are just playing the same tournament over and over again, and that does get dry pretty fast.
Do we do games or?
I was gonna say we got can do games and stuff, I guess.
Race through them.
Yeah, we got Barney's list on the stream at the moment, so I guess Barney, if you want to start off.
Yeah, so I played Moria because Moria's awesome. But this was basically just a development of the list that I'd taken to Reading. Because I'd played at the start of the new edition, the Balrog at Stirling, and that was pretty fun. But I wanted to see if you could like work Moria without the Balrog, because the Balrog seemed, other than giving like your Goblins Fearless pretty surplus to requirement, other than absolutely terrifying your opponents because you had a Balrog. So this was pretty much the 500-point bit that you get with the Balrog, and then adding in a Drazag warband for like bats and wargs and speed. The idea behind it is that you've got 2 Black Shield Shamans plus some bats to like super assassinate all of their big heroes. And then it's just like a horde. So it does horde things. It has like all of the nice combos with like bat swarms and the special rules with prowlers to get you up to like fight 5 with normal guys or fight 6 with turbos. So you can just like absolutely mince heroes. So like I killed a Glorfindel without striking and stuff like that at the tournament. But yeah, it was really good. It performed very well. Ultimately getting me 3rd. My loss and my draw were both to Kalman with Iron Hills. Mostly that was because the Ballista gives the list a bit of an issue if you don't get a good scenario. And he got one pretty iffy scenario that we drew at, and then he got one slightly better scenario that he won. So yeah, it was interesting. I had some really good games though. Our game, Josh, was amazing. Like that was one of the swingiest and best games I think I've ever played. Similarly, my game against Braund was amazing.
That was intense.
Yeah, because we both had so many models and moving parts. Because that's one of the things I like about the list, is it's just full of stuff. Yeah. It just does so many things. So every turn you're just like staring at the board, going, what do I do?
I was gonna say, because you've got a nice mix of things. Because it's not just Moria. You've got the spiders, wargs, some prowlers. Just some interesting stuff.
I mean, after playing Rohan for a bit at the start of the new edition, and also this, I was finding I was having a lot more fun with this because it's got a lot more things to think about, and like you can kind of leverage a bit more player skill when you're playing it. Whilst the problem with the Rohan list is it's really powerful, but sometimes your cavalry models just charge into the enemy, roll up 4 highest, and then die. And that's like, not really fun.
And also, there's some lists which you just auto lose with cavalry.
Yeah, it's just like some really awkward stuff. I mean, like Fellbeasts has disassembled it multiple times because it's one of the few lists that can deal with Theoden and stuff like that.
New Rivendell, new Radagast.
Yeah, so Wrath. I've not played a lot of Wrath of Bronins with it, but I'm not looking forward to ever doing that. But yeah, all in all, very pleased with the list. I working on an 800 and a 700 point version of it as well, because I'm probably going to end up taking some form of this to the GT as well. Yeah, it's pretty good. How was your list, Josh?
It was better than I thought it'd be. Like honestly, I was busy on the Friday. I was like up and down the country, so I didn't want to bring models with me. So Gethin kindly lent me models because I was coming back from uni. So I didn't have models to play. Gethin wrote me this list. It was an Isengard list with Lertz, Rasco, and Fryden, and a bunch of Berserkers. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what it was, so I'll see it in a sec. But all I know is that I thought the Berserkers would be worse because they dropped to Defense 5. It did pose some problems. Like, I played Goblins essentially 3 times across the tournament. There were only 2 that counted, and Defense 5 like sucks into Sprint 3 in combat. You should go down so much faster. And so that was kind of what I expected it to be. The crossbows with pikes weren't that bad. Like they become really bad if they're broken off into single combats. And the other thing is that I didn't play anything that I wasn't a higher fight value than. I played like goblins, what else? Gondor, just stuff like that. I played like 1 game against elves, and that was Rivendell Knights, and it wasn't really the same. So I think it'd be worse if my opponents were like fight 4-5 on the crossbow pikes, but yeah, they were fine. The army played well. Fryden's really, really good at fight value 5 mounted up.
Yeah.
Vrasku's still good. The crossbows underperformed, but they're the same as they used to be, so they're still good. Lertz is pretty good, even though I kept forgetting he had 3 wounds.
Yeah, you came up to me at the end of the tournament, was like, Lertz has 3 wounds, doesn't he? It's like, yeah.
I can talk about it later, but it definitely affected how I played one of my games in a very bad way. Do you want to just run through games real quick to talk about them, like, one by one? But because we played each other, I'll do one, and then you do one, Barney, and then we'll get to ours eventually. So my game 1 was against CJ. He was like 2nd for best newcomer. He had loads of goblins with a cave drake. I think it was domination, so I didn't really want to give up the middle. I got 1 turn of shooting, which was pretty rubbish. Combat broke out. He made a mistake in the early game, actually. We talked about this, in that like I messed up and he didn't call a heroic move that would have punished me for it, and it gave me an ability to like jump on a load of his goblins in like 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 combats with berserkers. But then I ended up rolling pretty poorly and he like killed them all. We like went even on kills in like 1-on-1s, goblin on berserker. So I was like, I'm gonna get smashed now. But then I had a surge in the late game, which like let me kill a load more of his models. But I couldn't answer the cave drake and I couldn't control the board. And in the end, he managed to like just pull it out. Yeah, I think it was a grim scenario, but he played overall pretty well. The other thing was that he set up the cave drake as though it could move through the forest because it can move through any terrain, but the trees form like a physical barrier,
so he can't actually.
Get through. But besides those like 2 mistakes, he played the game pretty well. Yeah, I think he deserved the win. I don't think he did anything that I wouldn't have done myself. So.
Yeah, so I played against Grey Company round 1, which I've never actually played against in a real tournament, so that was really interesting. I got out-deployed, shockingly, by Grey Company. So I kind of like tried to spread my army out a bit, which was probably wrong in hindsight, because what happened was there was like, however, I think it was 15-ish Rangers and Aragorn on 1 flank, then a couple of other Rangers dotted around the board, and then half of my army just had to walk the entire length of the board being shot. So that was a bit awkward. But my Drazag Warband did a really good job of picking off all of the individual Rangers that had like just in random places pressuring objectives. So I ended up like sort of wheeling my army around, collecting my side of the board almost that I deployed on, and then it was very much a try to lock out the Rangers before they get to start like chaining through with heroics and stuff to get back into the center of the board through the goblins, because there was like a couple of turns where it looked like I might not quite have enough models to stop them getting back into the middle.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit awkward, and I think on the last turn my opponent was like half an inch away from being able to contest the center and stuff like this. So it was really close. It was a really good game. The bats, like, one of the really awkward things about the list is that it's got loads of, like, one might fight 4 heroes, which are actually quite good against my list that's designed to dismantle, like,
Big
2 or
heroes.
3 big heroes, because the only thing that I want to kill is Aragorn. So that was an interesting dilemma. But yeah, it was a good game. I can't remember what the end score was. I think it was something like 1 contested objective and then 3 objectives to me. No, yeah, that's right. 3 objectives to me and then 1 to my opponent.
Mhm.
I think I got a cheeky wound on Aragorn, but I can't quite remember.
Game 2.
Game 2, I played Ian Spiller and his like massive horde of hobbits.
Yeah.
And it was contest of champions. So it was Lurtz against Gandalf.
Oh, this was interesting for both of you, I think.
Yeah, I think afterwards he realised that he probably should have been more tricksy with Gandalf, and like he could have pulled Lurtz out pretty early on and tried to jump on him and kill him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he didn't commit Gandalf early. He didn't scout for the extra kills. Lurtz ended up killing like almost nothing because he kept getting immobilized. But it was really funny actually in the first turn because I had a line of berserkers with pikes behind, and he had a line of hobbits, and he like charged this wave of hobbits, and I think he lost every combat and died in every single combat apart from 2. It was like 17 guys died, and he when we finished the combat, he just looked at me and said, "I don't know why I thought that wouldn't happen." But it like didn't matter because he had so many hobbits that it felt like it didn't hit his numbers at all.
Good old Spiller.
But it was a really fun game. It ended up with Lurtz and Vrasku like desperately trying to jump through to get onto Gandalf to like kill him right at the end.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember whether I did. I feel like I didn't. But I managed to get a couple kills, and I don't think he managed to get any because he was fighting heroes at the end. So it ended up being like I think I broke him, and I was like I killed 2 models and he killed 0. So I think it was like a 7-0, but I can't remember exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really fun game. Ian's a really nice guy. Just you kill his models and he's laughing with you, so really fun to play.
Yeah, so Contest of Champions, I played James Braund, who had like a Lake Town Guard, Braga Master, frontline. The Lake Elves with Círdan and some High Elves, and then Haldir and some Wood Elves. Had like a banner, some not Fountain Court Guard, Galadhrim Court Guard. Just generally like hoardy good stuff. He had 54 models, so he outnumbered my Goblin army, which was pretty terrifying. But it was Contest of Champions, and the Master was his general.
Oh.
So it was the Master versus Durbers, which made it a little bit more in my favour. We basically just like spent a lot of the time shuffling models really intricately. He was using his Círdan's Aura of Dismay to protect his like more pure Lake Town side, while the other side was just crashing in with the elf spear supports to try and punch through. On turn 1, I misdeployed because I left a gap, so one of my Shatter Shamans got charged on turn 1, so I had to like free him up to get that resource back out. James forgot to use Alfred for the entire game, so that helped.
Entire game.
James forgot to use Alfred, and I got halfway through the game forgetting to use Groblog's Crown. So like, yeah, we're kind of pretty bad on that front. I had 3 wargs on like the right flank where Círdan was, who failed their courage tests for every turn bar the last turn of the game to charge into combat, so they just sat and watched the fight, so that was pretty funny. There was a turn where, so basically Durbos got into combat almost every turn of the game and killed like a guy and was just like chop. There was a turn where I like messed up my placement so that James could get some Galadhrim Court Guard into the combat behind that I missed. And then I got really lucky and they rolled a 4 highest, which was like quite tedious for him. And yeah, like there was a turn where the Master could have I think was in like a heroic combat with Braga and could have catapulted, but they like bounced off a random goblin and stuff like that. So James got a little bit unlucky. I think we both made a couple of mistakes, but it was a really, really tough game. That list is phenomenally good.
Yeah.
Like, I would not be surprised if we see a similar combination like that popping up again in the future. It feels very reminiscent of the Hobbit elf list from the previous edition.
With slightly worse shooting, and no resistance to magic, but faster moving models.
Fast moving,
And
more
higher fight value
skills.
on the basic.
It's got like some really nice combos with the Lake Town half because you've got things like Braga getting his free heroic combats and stuff like that. I did manage to steal a might and a will off the master because I gave Groblog the bag of gold and managed to get him into combat with the master, and the master was very poor on his courage test, so that was fun. So yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, I think I ended up getting triple kills, but then he managed to break me back because his army is actually just significantly better at fighting than mine is.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a good game.
Okay. For my game 3, I played J. Clare.
Yeah.
He had a really themey Gondor army with Denethor, Baragon, Pippin, and Gandalf the White.
Just throwing the I'm actually gonna get up the list for your opponents and throw that up. So Jay's
Oh,
is
yeah,
now on
sure.
the stream.
That
What
was the.
What was the scenario?
It was the 5 objectives, but you flip them.
Oh.
I can't remember what it's called.
Capture and control.
Capture and control. That was it.
Not mess up.
We stood off between 2 forests. Was how we deployed. I deployed Lurtz poorly, and he managed to get a wound on him with a Citadel Guard with a longbow. And this was the scenario that was the worst mistake of the tournament. I forgot that he got a wound on him, and I rolled a 1 for the fate, and eventually decided not to spend the free might. I was like, it's not worth it. But then I didn't want to give up the full VPs for a leader kill, so I decided to run Lurtz away, forgetting 2 things: forgetting that he had 3 wounds, so he wasn't just going to die to a stray sorcerer's blast, which is what I was worrying. But also forgetting that it's capture and control, and you only get 1 VP for wounding the leader. You don't get 3 for killing him.
Yeah.
So let's spend the entire game not in the fight. I was like, I realized it, and Jay was just like, yeah. I was like, well, big mistake. Well done, me. But we just started fighting between the 2 forests. I had a few models that were trapped because of pikes, but it let me bring more models to bear in the combat. His defense 7 was insanely good against strength 4. The shield wall was really strong, but fight 3 on the basic warriors is really bad. He was just losing so many combats because he was only fight 3, which is the main reason that I think Guard of the Fountain got best in that list. He ran out of might pretty quickly as well, was the other big thing. Because of Gandalf kind of needs to use it for himself, and there isn't a lot in the list. And then I won a run of priorities near the end that just meant that I could lock the game in. Frieden was a monster. He charged 2 guys or something, lost his horse, and I wasn't willing to spend the 2 or 3 might to keep it. But then Jay detached he must have detached Pippin and 6 or 7 guys to kill Frieden, and turn by turn he killed all of them. He just waved this dude who just stood on his home objective at the end of the game. It was so funny. So Frieden was a monster, but yeah, he was just. I misplayed in a number of ways that game, and I think I was carried by the fact that Jay had a worse list and worse luck. So, but it was a fun game. It was I enjoyed it. It was interesting because it's not a scenario that I've played as much.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the newer scenarios I haven't played, so it was interesting to see how he played it.
I really like capture and control. I think it's one of the more interesting scenarios.
Yeah.
Just because it can be so swingy at the end, and it's one of those games where you're kind of always in it. Because there's so many times where this was very true of my game. Was the entire game was I'm winning, but I really could be losing if I mess it up.
Yeah.
So I played against Jayacharya, who had mostly foot Rivendell. So he had Glorfindel on foot because he's a true gentleman, along with
Wait, Glorfindel on foot.
Glorfindel on foot,
Oh.
with some high elves on foot, and then he had the twins on horse with about 6 knights.
Yeah.
So the start of the game was me walking up the board, capturing some objectives as we went, while I got shot at by Rivendell with their army bonus. So I lost a decent chunk of goblins like walking up to him. But my main issue was I was having to sort of skirmish a little bit with my wargs and my spiders to put pressure on his knights so they couldn't go exactly where they wanted to. Because what I was really worried of, because even though I've got 50-ish models, I can't cover the whole board when I'm playing against cavalry because the goblins move so slowly.
Yeah.
That I was having to sort of every turn move a warg into charge distance of a knight so that he'd have to keep backing off and coming behind his army so I could try and wrap him before they'd like break out of a flank and come around and start turning my objectives back over. And then basically what happened was the lines clashed and I was like hitting pretty well there. My bat swarms did absolute work because they like caught one of the twins and got him off his horse, and then they caught another. Then they caught Glorfindel eventually after I cleared out a couple of just normal dudes because I was using them to fly behind the battle line to trap the normal warriors so that they couldn't back away, and just like enraging a bat.
I was gonna say,
So
yeah,
that was...
used enraged quite a bit because of Druzog.
Yeah. So I was doing that and sort of chunking through the lines just 'cause I had so many models compared to him because elves are so expensive, and like winning that section of the fight. But then what was happening on like the flanks where the knights were trying to like escape.
Mm-hmm.
So in the like last few turns of the game, he had one contested objective with me, and then I had all the rest of the objectives. And I think there was a sequence of 3 or 4 turns where the other twin with a knight was like heroic combating off of like one goblin or like a warg onto another thing, killing that thing, and then like slowly slingshotting around to try and get my back objectives, which ended in the game being, I think I had 3 objectives and then 1 contested in the middle and 1 to Jay, because he'd managed to get like a distant one and then come into the middle to contest, and my goblins were like running at the middle trying to keep him off it and fighting him to like try and hold it, but didn't quite manage to do it, so ended up being contested. But yeah, it was a really good game. Not actually played Jay before, so that was really nice as well. Yeah, that was the end of day 1 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just straight into day 2.
Yeah,
I was
so-
supposed to play Jay,
yeah.
but he wasn't at day 2.
No, he couldn't make it for day 2.
Yeah, so I ended up getting a buy this round, so there's not really much to talk about. We did talk about the matchup the day before, we were chatting, and we weren't so certain like who had the lead. It was kind of scenario based. I'm kind of confident, and I think he agreed that it was an awkward matchup, like for me, because fight 5 strength 3 on fight 4 defense 5 is like really grim, and I don't really have an answer to the twins or Glorfindel in the list, like other than just trying to strike and hope I win. We kind of figured that if I killed a few of his models, I'd outnumber him then by enough to cause him pretty big problems. You know, with 2 attack berserkers, I'd like break him up and trap him and stuff like that. But if I drew like a bad scenario, then I think it was the one where it's only 12-inch. Like I said, it was Ilmer, wasn't it?
Right. So yeah, +1 to wound, but only 12-inch shooting. So
Which I think favoured him because he had elf bows, whereas I had crossbows, so he could move in and out of my range.
Because you might have, if it was a blighter to the death, your crossbows could have done quite a bit.
Yes. So I said
especially with Rascal.
We weren't exactly certain, and we thought it was going to be pretty dicey, especially in the first couple turns. Would probably decide the game, because if he can chop through a decent chunk, it's going to go to even numbers fights, and then I lose.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if I can chop through a decent chunk in like the first turn of combat, it's going to go to almost 2-to-1s, and I already have twice as many attacks as him. And even with high fight value, I don't think he had a banner, so it's going to be hard. I know, but I didn't end up playing him, so it's hard to say how that would have gone.
Yeah, you just played the Bringer, which is deal with a random goblin list.
Yeah, and that was barely a game, so
Yeah.
we just chatted mostly.
Yeah, so I played Kalman. We were both incredibly hungover He was actually like pretty downtrodden for most of the game because I'd spent most of the evening before needling him because he was really excited to siege weapon me with his big dwarf ballista, and then Gethin announced that we were playing Capture by Moonlight, and he was like, "Oh, really?" He was like, I was like getting in his head a little bit because that's really fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially
so
when it's Calvin.
his ballista did not do a huge deal. It got like in the entire game got one good shot off. And killed like a big chunk of goblins. But I basically spent probably half of the game walking up the board with like a widget, making sure that all of my heroes couldn't get hit properly unless he rolled a 6 by a 6. So that was not necessarily the most enjoyable experience for us who were both like pretty badly hungover.
He deployed his entire army in a corner behind a rock.
Yeah, so he put his ballista behind a rock and then like made a line of dwarves around it with his heroes behind it, and it's just like, oh well, I guess I'm just gonna walk at you slowly then. Then I was like using Tremor to like catapult through and try and knock heroes off their goats. On one of the earlier turns when I was like skirmishing with my Drizag warband, I put a giant spider within 10 inches of Thorin, being like, cool, he could charge Thorin, but he's going to move him because that's what you do. And then he just looked at it and went, yeah, right. So I was like, the next turn, enrage the spider, charge Thorin, win the combat, and then put all of the strikes on the goat. Don't kill the goat. That was really defective. And then the same thing happens again, where he's like, rather than block me out with some warriors, he just charges into my spider. I'm like, cool. Enrage my spider again. Win the combat. Fail to, yeah. And like, all of this was with getting my points out of Thorin, because Thorin was having to strike up.
Okay.
Because
so there was at least some benefit.
Yeah, so I was getting something out of it, but it was like pretty frustrating to not get the goat.
Yeah.
Then I eventually got both the heroes off their mounts, and they were kind of like a little bit trapped to the side of his line. So basically, our guys were just mashing into each other. I sent a couple of goblins over the rock that he deployed his ballista behind to like do some interception. The main objective is, of course, to like kill heroes without getting all of your heroes killed. So all of my heroes were like playing really, really safe, and the only thing that was really going to kill them was a ballista shot. So like there were a couple of turns where I was like, my shaman's like taking a random splash hit from a ballista, and now he needs to get the hell out of dodge, type of thing. I tried to pull off a sick play to kill his siege veteran, where I did a heroic combat with a black shield shaman and an enraged bat swarm that he didn't see, leaving his like captain exposed, and then my bat swarm went to move on and was like 2 millimeters over the board edge in every point that I could place him to charge the captain. I was like, oh, this is like the shittest thing ever.
Yeah, that's shit.
He ended up showing like another dwarf, which meant that I couldn't like get anywhere in the game after that, because after he realised that that was what I was going for, the captain just buggered off into the back corner along with Dane and Thorin, and then we just played for mashing into each other, and I think we just both broke each other in the end, and it was a draw.
Yeah, it was a 4-4 draw.
It was kind of like basically what I expected to happen. It was just a bit awkward that I didn't manage to quite get enough leverage on the heroes to get some wounds with my Drizag, because all of the work was being done by the Drizag warband, pretty much.
Game 5.
Game 5 was you two, wasn't it?
Yeah, we played. I think it's fair to say that had it been another scenario, I would have been scared of your list, Barney. But because it was to the death, and I think it was 10 crossbow shots, roughly. I was kind of going into this fairly confidently with the shooting advantage. You did have shields on all of your goblins, even on the spear guys, which made it a bit harder. Yeah. But I was like pretty confident because they already moved 5 goblins, and because of where the terrain was, it took you a long time to actually make it to me. But the shooting was kind of ineffective.
Yeah, it was like probably like 40% instead of like average, right? It was like just below. There were a couple of turns where like I took off 5 or 6 goblins in a couple of turns. So I took off 1 goblin.
Yeah.
It's like
I can't remember how many I dropped in the end, but I was like,
I think you dropped like 10 to 12 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I did have the terrain was quite reasonable for me on one side of the board where my Drizag Warband was.
Yeah.
It's on the monsters.
Mm-hmm. You played well around the cover.
Oh, we had the spider thing, yeah.
Yeah, tried to smuggle a spider in onto Lurd, so I was like, you're not having that, moving him away. Talking about whether he could run alongside impassable terrain and stuff.
Yeah, we were just like, how do the spider rules actually work? Because spiders like can obviously run on walls, but can they actually in the game? Stupid shit like this.
I was afraid of your Black Shield Shaman shattering my banners 2 VPs, so he stood way at the back.
Yeah, so he like ran up into a corner, didn't he?
Yeah, just stood there with a guy for the entire game. Combat eventually broke out. I'm trying to. I remember the big thing was that I had Fryden and 2 Warg Riders on a flank, like trying to hold down a full flank, which probably was too little. But I was kind of gambling on the fact that you didn't have any might there, and that I could hold there for a turn. You only had, I think, 8 goblins fighting about 5 or 6 berserkers, and I could crush for a few of them and then move the berserkers over with a heroic. I think you enraged a bat, trapped Fryden. I struck up higher because it was just like a bat and a.
Yeah, so you needed to go to fight 10 to be higher or fight 9 because I was fight 4 I think in the combat with a goblin because I trapped you.
Yeah. And he ended up going higher.
Absolutely binned the combat rolling like.
Yeah, rolled the 3 highest, didn't have the might up to a 6 and got 1 shot with both of his might points. And then the other thing was that I thought the 2 Warg Riders would only be fighting goblins. But you ended up managing to work a giant spider through just barely alongside the board edge. Yeah. And that meant that you pretty much guaranteed won that. And then the other one lost anyway, so I lost all 3 of those models and all the might on that flank.
Yeah, so like lost a hole and then the banner was directly behind them.
Yeah.
So I had access to the banner.
And then I think you won priority the next turn. I was like quite comfortably winning the combat to the middle, but you'd obviously broken through onto my banner and could then surround me. Groblog's crown like never went off. You rolled for it every turn and it just didn't go off.
It's just covered in the blood of enemies.
You shattered Lurtz's weapon, and I figured the safest place for him was fighting a goblin with pikes behind him. Like rather than trying to like hide him somewhere behind where you had bat swarms and wargs that could be enraged. Yeah. I just had him fight a single goblin, and that worked out okay. But yeah, eventually you just brought numbers round, and I started losing combats. I think we both broke.
Yes, we both broke.
The final score was 8-6.
The fucking world happened, and
last turn we hit time, right? We said this would be the last turn because we were like 5 minutes off time.
Oh.
And then you double one Durber's courage, and he ran off and gave up leader points. And until that moment, we were pretty confident you had it.
Yeah, so I got a cheeky wound on Lurtz, so I was like, we were both broken, but I had a wound on Lurtz.
And you were probably going to 25% me.
Yeah, and we were at like parity for flag. We weren't sure if I was going to 25% you, so it's like, if I 25% you, then it's a draw, whilst before I was like comfortably winning.
Yeah.
So then I had to spend like half an hour working out how to catapult 2 heroes into Lurtz so that I could strike to kill him, and then also trying to optimize for 25%.
Yeah, and then he ended up dying without any of that being relevant, despite the fact that we delayed the entire tournament by about 15 minutes.
I was just on there like, guys, we've got another round.
I was just leaning back on my chair like, thank God it's not on me. Just waiting for you to finish your move.
It was really interesting because I think ultimately that game probably is what cost me the tournament, because I was so tired after that game. I made so many mistakes in the final game.
Yeah, I was exhausted after that one too. But yeah, that was a great game. That one was super cool. I can't remember everything that happened. Yeah. I will say one thing though. The thing with those Moria lists is it's very hard to get at the heroes because they have so many models and none of them really want to commit. So there tends to be like a bubble of them at the back that's really hard to get onto. That's like true of like every single Moria list that I've played.
It's like they're really cool because they like sit at the back and like you spread them out a little bit just to get some mic coverage, and then as soon as you get start getting the holes and the wrap effect, they get to just like all of them just bust into a hole and smash, and it's like, oh god, like start catapulting goblin and prowlers like really far around the back and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it means that when you open up the heroes, your opponent's heroes, you can get in because they can all strike because the goblin heroes all have strike randomly.
Yep. Game 6 then.
Elite combat is.
I played Ed Ball for Game 6, his Rivendell Knights, and it was seize the prize. And as I say, I was tired after playing you, and I saw this matchup and kind of just went, well, I suppose I lose. Rivendell Knights.
Ed then one-upped it with the deployment.
Oh yeah, he won the roll-off to pick board sides, and he did the classic thing that I've only ever seen him do, where he picks, rather than like, the boards are set up in a way that you're supposed to have a player on one side of it, and then he'll go sideways on, and he'll make you deploy sideways onto the board, because it's a 4x4, and you know, it's not like, you can probably do that. But the side that he gave me was, it was one of the GW terrains, so there's the massive hill that's not flocked, so the models kept falling down. And right in the center, exactly 12 inches on, was one of the massive GW towers. So I couldn't deploy any models in the middle. So it was like, because it was a diagonal line to the center, it was further away. And he just had a straight open line. So it was really awkward. I like marched forward turn 1. He ran Glorfindel up, dismounted him with a 12-inch move on Asphalov and dug up the prize turn 1. But I was like, well, this is awkward. I did the same mistake again, where I left Lert to the front, and he shot him. He ended up just living. What's it called? But so he just ran away pretty much for the rest of the game. I gambled with Fryden and threw him in, and hoped that he would like get lucky and strike up and win a fight, basically. That ended up not happening. I can't remember exactly what it was. He ended up like dying, and I made another mistake in how I set up, so he was able to get onto Frasco. But again, like I was tired at this point, and the deployment was really awkward. Yeah. So it just happened. So he ended up getting all of my might out really early, but it cost him a lot of might to do. Like he had to call heroic combats and heroic moves, and like up his dice with might. So I think he was down to like 1 might at this point, but it was just a 1 to get the prize off and away, basically. I ended up getting really lucky, and like I trapped Glorfindel on foot. I had a berserker and 2 pikemen in the fight, and that was it. But he was trapped. And I think Ed on his 4 or 5 dice rolled a 5 high, didn't have any mates to up it. I rolled a 6, and then on 8 dice rolled like 4 6s and killed him. I was like, looking good, pretty happy with that. I got pretty lucky in that game, but he had Rivendell Knights, and I think it was Elrond had the prize. So he just sort of wrapped him around the side, slowly killed my army with shooting before he ran off. He was trying to wait Lurtz out to fail a courage test, but I kept passing it. And then I think Elrond rolled a 1 and a 2 or something like that. He was like 1 off failing, and he was like, I guess I'll run off now. So yeah, Ed won that game pretty comfortably. But it was still right.
9-1 victory to Ed in the end.
Yeah, I must have broke him then in the end. I got pretty lucky with combats, but it's one of those where it only had 6 might in the army. And when I got really lucky and killed Glorfindel, it was just a lot of sort of my 3 or 4 attacks fighting his 1 or occasionally 2. Yeah. So even though he had higher fight value, he couldn't roll a 6 every single time. And whenever he lost, I tended to kill. But him digging up the prize turn 1 was awkward. Mm-hmm. And me not having any might because of like mispositioning heroes made the game really difficult. I kind of, as soon as he got it to Elrond and like swung him around my lines, I was kind of like, I'm pretty sure I've lost this game. There's nothing I can really do about this anymore. So it's pretty chilled, like laid back. I was really annoyed at the start when he made me sit up on the hill. Less because of how awkward the deployment was for the game, and more because the models just fell down it.
Yeah.
It's like, please don't do this to me.
The worst thing about, like, just... Especially
and then you got to go round to either side of the board because it's up against the wall. Yeah. I was like, he does that to mind game you out too, though. But yeah, it was alright. It was an alright game. It was probably the least interesting game of the tournament, just because as soon as he dug up the prize turn 1, slung it off to Elrond, and he rode off turn 2 off a heroic combat, I was kind of just like, there's not really much I can do anymore.
Yeah.
But there were definitely funny moments in it. And Ed was pretty laid back about things, so still a fun game. Still enjoyed it.
Good to hear.
How about you, Barney? Your top table game?
Final game. Rematch against Kalman.
It's one of the worst games of Lord of the Rings I've ever played.
Because of Kalman, right?
No, just because I was awful, like so bad. So, the start of the game, we deploy. I put one of my bat swarms in the middle with another bat swarm next to it. I'm like, right, turn one, I'm gonna put my bat swarm in the middle. I'm gonna pick up the thing, and I'm gonna move everyone else around it. I'm gonna march with this guy so that all of my goblins are a bit further up. So I'm like, cool. And Cowman sets up with his ballista at the back, looking directly at all of my goblins that it's going to shoot in the face. The two mounted heroes at the front, and then all of the dwarfs in a big line. I'm like, cool. And then, like, the middle of the board is a house, a wood, and then there's like a big corridor with the prize in it. I was like, okay, this is pretty alright, because the dwarfs kind of have to like funnel through this tiny little slot, so that's going to be a bit difficult for them. So turn one, I go march, and Calvin goes, cool, I'll march as well. I was like, cool. I'll heroic move, and he's like, yes. I'm like, why did I do that? I want priority. That was really bad. So I heroic moved and marched, which like was really awkward because it meant that my army had to clump in a really weird way for the move. So that was lame. But my Batswarm did pick up the prize on turn one. So my Batswarm went in, picked up the prize. I then mismeasured with my other Batswarm so that it was within 2 inches of the first Batswarm. So when the ballista fired and hit and then scattered, it could scatter onto the other Batswarm, knocking them both down. So that was really awkward. The next turn, we both have heroic off. I win. My Batswarm only gets to move 6 because it has to stand up. But rather than going backwards behind my lines, I decide to go sideways because that's the way I want to go to get off the board. So I'm just thinking like, well, that's where I'm going, so I'll go that way. But then by doing that, I can't stop Dane or Thorin from heroic combating into my Batswarm off the front of my goblins. So that turn, Dane heroic combats into my Batswarm, kills my Batswarm, picks up the prize, goes back behind his line, and then we spend the rest of the game standing in the middle of the board as I try to desperately kill Dane and get the prize whilst being shot by a ballista every turn. And what happened was I did none of those things. Dane survived, all of my goblins died, and then I lost. And it was really, really grim. But yeah, I basically like looked at the board, looked at the scenario, and I've done this so many times and seized the prize and gone, if I pick up the prize and win this move off, I'm pretty sure I can't lose. And then I played it so badly that I lost.
It's the second you hear that your plan is to try and break through an Iron Hills wall is like, you know you're in trouble at that point. It's like beating your head against a wall. It's not going to happen. It
actually have been, Kalman has to break through 50 goblins to get to my prize that's slowly crawling off the board on whatever model I can find that doesn't get shot by a ballista.
Yeah.
And like, but ho hum, I definitely deserve to lose that game. So, and I think a lot of it was due to the frazzled nature of my brain from a night of drinking and then also playing that previous game against you. That
yeah, you were pretty stressed in those last 10 minutes.
I was gonna say you had a pretty stressful day too. Kalman, Josh Kalman.
Like there was not an easy matchup to be found for day two. Which, I mean, it's what I would expect of 100 points. To be honest, I don't think I had an easy match in any of my games. Like, I think they were all really, really good and really hard.
What was it? I think at the end of it, at the end of the tournament, there's only one person who hadn't won. I think it was like Dave Reed came like 21st with 2 wins or something like that. Yeah,
I remember him saying after the tournament he was surprised he placed so low.
It's like
two wins.
Yeah, one person got 0 wins, which was Michael Haskell who won the wooden spoon. 2 people had 1 win, and then it was David Reed on 2 wins. It's just like, first off, it's David Reed down there, which is that's a surprise. And then the fact that many people managed to win at least 2 games. It was relatively competitive.
The tournament was like absolutely stacked because there were so many people competing at like the tail end of the league to like. So I think
well, it was out of the top 16. I think there were 4 missing, because the way that I did the first round draw was seeding. So person who was first, so Jay would pay the person who was last, and then so on and so forth. And Harry Moore, who was like 14th at the time.
Yeah.
Well, the 15th was the first unseeded player or something like that.
Oh,
It was
wow.
just like that's how
Yeah.
like stacked the lineup
It
was.
it was a massive bloodbath, and it was also like almost everyone at the top, because the league was so tight this year. Almost everyone, if they podiumed, would like massively jump their position.
Mhm.
Because I got into it working out that if I won, I could get 5th.
Mhm.
But if some other people podiumed, I could reasonably finish not in the top 10. So
It was like, what going into it, Kalman was like. I don't think Kalman was top 16 going into it or something.
I think Cameron was like 12th or something.
Okay, but then he jumped up to 5th.
And he jumped up to 5th. So that was
pretty good.
Pretty large increase. Same with Braund as well. Braund was 11th, and he jumped into 6th.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was a good. I like it when the finals like that. Nice shake up at the end of the year.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you want to discuss the lists? Because I guess you spoke a bit about yours. So should we just skip on to James Braund, or do you want to speak
We've
more
already
about
done
We
a
can
list
talk about
like this. I don't know if Barney wants. We've done one on an episode before that was kind of similar to this, haven't we?
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think there's a huge amount to say about it. The fact that Alfred can lead 12 models is like
That's
crackers.
crazy, yeah.
Point, so powerful. But like that's kind of the benefit of the list is all of the heroes do stuff, are low points, and can lead 12 guys. The Master can lead 15, so it's actually like you can even squeeze a few more guys into this list. So it's like got all of the benefits of the Hobbit Elves list. So it's like super spicy.
Yeah.
I think it will definitely be a player, but again, it's nothing massively new. My one suggestion to James when I looked at it was get a Sentinel into your Haldir warband, just because it gives you another warping piece. So that was my one suggestion. The other suggestion I considered was dropping Haldir and having a Legolas warband leading some Mirkwood elves with spears, so that you can have Legolas instead of Haldir. Because Haldir's fine, but he's not like anything particularly spectacular.
That's fair.
What's Legolas?
You just lose the fight 6 of the Galafron Cup.
Yeah, like that's your main trade-off. But you can still have Sentinels because Thranduil's Halls can have Sentinels.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, the main thing you're losing is the Court Guard, which I don't think are massively relevant in the list.
Mhm.
Like, there's a couple of like random fights, obviously, where having a pike's great, but it's not.
I think it's better in blue on blue, where you're running into a lot of like fight 6 problematic heroes like Aragorn and Dane and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's good when you're like randomly taxing the big hero's might, but I think also at like lower points they're so much less relevant.
Mhm.
You have so many dudes that you can just like kind of randomly throw guys under the bus, and if you randomly win a combat, you might just get a horse.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I mean, one thing I will say about this list is Círdan is crackers. Like,
Círdan's insane. Yeah.
He just does so much in the list.
So
Definitely
it
the
was
most
really interesting 'cause,
proficient hero.
I was saying in the last edition that one thing that wasn't really in the game that I'd really like to see is like a middle-pointed utility wizard, and now we've got it, and I hate it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's a bit too good. So this is your fault, Barney.
It's blinding light on that lower cost. Like everywhere else that gets blinding light, you've got to tax yourself seriously in some way. It's like, you sure you can take it on Lothlorien, but then you're taking like Lothlorien, you're not like going into the Lord of the West Rivendell heroes. Besides that Galadriel, it's like, what? Gandalf the White, so expensive. Or Lady of Light, who can't lead any models.
Yeah.
And then it's the Shadow Lord for evil. And like Rafe's got a lot worse. Now you have to turn his ability on with a will point. I don't know, it's such a good way of getting blinding light into the list.
And then you got Aura Dismay just to make it awkward.
Dismay. Has he got Command and Dismay?
Yeah, he's got Command, Dismay, Blinding Light, and
Enchanted
Enchanted
Blades.
Blades.
Yeah, so I think the issue lies in that he naturally solves all of the issues that hordes have without being specific. So, like, he kind of does what Malbeth did, in that he randomly benefits guys that maybe he shouldn't necessarily benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how you like can constructively fix that issue without maybe doing something like making Aura of Command in a similar vein to Fury.
I was going to say you could do the Fury thing. So command and dismay only affect your race. I think.
That would be cool.
Don't know how you'd blinding light. Maybe make it a 3+.
Yeah, maybe, but it's not.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it's a huge issue to change.
But Kurdan is a very, very strong model.
He's very strong. I imagine we'll be seeing lots of him. I'll certainly be getting one painted up.
I've got one. Good old Tom Pickard.
I want to build a version of this anyway because it feels very similar to the Goblin list I'm currently playing. It's got loads of moving parts and there's loads of versions you can play around with to change it based on what the tournament pack is.
I've been looking at it.
It's just a really nice Swiss Army knife.
Yeah, I know a few weeks ago, me and Dale Gray literally sat down on one of our gaming nights and just wrote lists, and most of them involved the 3 Lake Down warbands, and it was most of them for the Cardiff event. So it's like Kurdad with those 3 warbands, or Radagast with those 3 warbands. And it's like you were getting like 40 models, 34 with Radagast at 450 points. With the Aura Dismay, Nature's Wrath, and Radagast, or Dismay, Aura Command.
Terrifying.
I've been playtesting it, and I'm not looking forward to Kurdan at 450.
Yeah.
Like, it's so awkward to play against.
If you've not sorted out your Cardiff list yet, and you can get hands on Kurdan, do it.
One thing I would say is, like, it's definitely not unbeatable. I don't think it's so impressive. It's just, like, really, really solid.
It's not unbeatable, but there's nothing else really like it.
The biggest thing for me is it's hard to get into a list. Like, it's 80 points.
Okay, then.
Yeah, like, a lower points value is at least like 450. Like, once you break 600, it's like, it's really good. But at 450, it's like, what do you take? What do you take in him? Yeah, sure. But then you don't have, like, this was the thing that came up when I was playing your list. It was like, you don't have any big hitter in the list. You don't have, like, anything with heroic strike. Because I don't think anyone in the Lake Town list has heroic strike.
When you played me, you ran me over with chariots, so that's not a great example.
But none of the Lake Town heroes have strike, right?
No, but Braga's 5/5.
And then Kurdan doesn't have strike. So then you're looking at essentially all that, and then let's say you take elves in his warband.
That's
looking at an awful lot of points that doesn't have strike.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all filler, right? It's like they are the it's basically like I look at this list and it's like good goblins, but the utility you get is the elf contingent rather than the utility you get in goblins, which is the monster contingent and the shamans. So like maybe what it could use is like some minor magic, like maybe a Stormcaller, maybe an Arwen at 70 points. Like that's probably quite good. Instead of the Haldir, and you just start. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Like when you get up to higher points, it just gets even more crackers because you can just get more of your utility pieces in.
It's a really good core.
It's a really good core, and I guess what you say is true. At like 450, 500, it's a bit more difficult to get all of the moving pieces that you would necessarily like to be able to deal with everything. Which is why I like the Goblin list a lot, because you can legitimately have an answer to anything your opponent could take at the 450 point level.
Yeah.
And again, Moria works really well because it scales all the way up. So it's very similar, but I think,
It's like you said, it's a new... The Lake Town stuff is the new Hobbit.
It's the new good stuff list.
New Hobbits, yeah.
Which is fine. Like, there will always be a good stuff list. Like, you can't, unless you're, like, putting real harsh restrictions on the ally matrix, which you don't really want to do because it's not fun.
Not anymore. You don't want more restrictions, really.
No. I think that's about all there is to say about that list.
So this was James's. He came second with this. Barney was the only person he lost to. He won his other 5 games. And then we got...
Be stopped.
Yeah.
The only person that got beaten is Kalman.
So
otherwise,
Kalman, since the new edition came out, has been to 3 tournaments and has only lost 1 game with this list. It's pretty... Obviously, it's like, there was the doubles, Sterling and this, but the lists were very similar. The other 2 had like a Dwalin Warband as well, but it's all about Dane, Thorin, Ballista, and then get some troops as well. It's nails.
It's just Dana, Ballista, and Iron Hills, and then
Yeah.
you add in whatever you want after that if you have the points.
They're just like really well costed, and they
Yeah.
just don't die. And then the Ballista randomly wins you games, and your heroes randomly win you games because they're really well pointed and they don't die. So it's just like it's just the most solid middle of the road list you can take.
Yeah,
like it's very similar to what Farurko's was
Yeah.
last edition. Like it's just straight down the middle. It's insane.
I think
The-
if people have watched like a couple of the past streams, I've said this before, but I think Iron Hills is the best army in the game right now. It doesn't have the highest peak, but its lows is probably the highest out of all armies. Like you get average players, and they want to win. This is the list they should take.
I think the problem with the list is it caps out. So I think that it is really good, but if you play your like very linear, not a lot of play to it list against someone that's playing like the Goblins list or like the Lake Elves list, and they outplay you, then that's where you're going to start running into problems with the list.
Yeah, this is
It's definitely beatable by like if you play against someone who's better than you. It's it's going to be.
This is what I.
Which, although very good, can sometimes mean you're playing 90 points down.
Yeah.
I think the Ballista changed the game for it though. Like, I mean, I saw people take ballistas at tournaments, and I played against people who took ballistas, but no one really won games with it.
No,
Like,
I think the
like
ballistas.
Kalman's been running it out. It's done really well, and I think it's been like a big revelation where people have gone, actually, this changes the game because it makes your opponent come to you.
It's to be fair, it's
Which is, like,
because
such
of
a
the
big thing
buffs.
for Iron Hills.
It was already the best War Machine, but War Machines weren't very good. And then War Machines got buffed, and this didn't get modified. So it got a load of free buffs.
Yeah, did you see the post in the group where it was like, Iron Hills Ballista, you can't scare me with this? And then it was like, but now it has an extra might point and like deploys differently or whatever, and it's still got no minimum range. And it was like, oh my god.
It's super good, and it's not just what it does, it's what it can do. It's you get in a lot of games. There's a lot of times where it's not the impact of what it's doing; it's the impact of what it can do.
It's
like-
making your opponent play.
Yeah, it's like you play, for example, Barney plays loads of Magic. If you play against a deck that you know have certain cards in them, you can't play certain things because you know there's a chance they will have that counter spell or they'll have that. I don't know if Lightning Bolt's used anymore. In video games like we play League of Legends, me and Josh, it's like you can't make certain plays because they may have their roll up, they may have this, and that's what the Ballista can do. You can't do certain things because the Ballista could hit, it could get that area of effect damage and just wipe you.
Tim's made a fair point in that he said the Ballista's so good because players are used to advancing and fighting in formations, and if you go in a skirmish formation, Maelstrom's a problem for it. If you go in a skirmish formation, it's not so good. The problem is that they fight in like chokes and corners, and if you go into that in a skirmish formation for the most part, you're just going to lose. Like the reason that people play in blocks is because they can bring more numbers to bear in a smaller area, and if you're like skirmishing into that, you're just going to bounce off it as you're like one guy fights there for.
Also, it's one of the most frustrating things to do in a game to
no
have
one
to
wants to
walk
do it.
up the battlefield and space out your models so it's not going to
played-
blast.
I've played this multiple times, and you do it in deployment. You do it for your first turn of movement, and the next three, like, I'll just sod it.
Yeah.
This will do. Like maybe you'll hit 4. I can't be bothered like doing it properly.
you pray that Cowan misses all the dice rolls. That's all I do. I'm just like, I'm not going to bother. But
Yeah, you adjust your formation as you close, and it's got no minimum range. It still shoots you.
yeah. And then you get to combat and it still shoots you because the
Yeah,
Iron
shooting
Hills
your
and they
spear
don't care.
support behind Dane or whatever, and you're like, what the hell?
It is definitely beatable, but it's one of the most frustrating things in the game.
And it's low cost for the army. It's like pretty easy to get in. So
I really dislike it. But...
It's the zone control and like the way it warps a bunch of scenarios because like the captured by moonlight, ill met by moonlight, whatever that scenario is now called that me and Calvin played was like completely warped by the fact that he had a ballista.
Yeah.
Because if he didn't have a ballista, then I could have done whatever I wanted because the ballista is the only thing that can deal with me because his army has no other shooting.
yeah,
Whilst the ballista essentially lets you give all of your dwarfs elf bows. That's what it feels like. It's like it's that powerful that you're like you have complete shooting superiority.
And it is complete because
Shooting superiority because it has the stupid special rule.
yeah, this is what I mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like
It shoots first every time. Like it's got so many special rules for such low points.
Yeah.
When you compare it to like some of the other siege engines, you're just like, how is this happening to me? Like, how is this fair? And like, there's not really any. Like, what's the counterplay to it? I can't shoot at it.
you get the right scenario.
It's
the counterplay to it.
the counterplay is scenario and spacing your army out, but
like the problem with spacing
sometimes.
your army out is that one, it takes forever, so it's not a positive gameplay experience. Two, spacing your army out is much worse for your like actual strategy than having your fight in the block like your army's designed to do.
Yeah.
So like basically against like what 90% of armies want to fight in a block. So against 90% of armies, it completely disassembles their core structure in which they fight. And the only way to counter it is if they get bad deployment because there's a scenario that favors you instead of the siege engine.
And if it's pure Iron Hills, they get the +1/-1 reserves.
Even then, like, they're turning up near it.
what was
Which
it? Sterling counterplayed heirlooms, so deployed the ballista next to the objective. First turn, the ballista was on the objective, so it could pick it up because it deploys 6 inches on the board.
Yeah, like what do you do against it? Like, I guess like there's the 10% armies that play as skirmish, like the cav armies.
Yeah.
I played it with Candish, and I played it with against it with Candish and Maelstrom, so I was able to just like go into it with a chariot turn 1. But
I guess
if you know,
yeah,
it's really hard to play into.
I guess the other counter is like ridiculously high defense models. You just go, I literally don't care if you shoot me.
Yeah,
Like,
if you go to defense 7, it's not that bad.
a bit like Dwarves or Army of the Dead or something, it's not that great. But then the
Still
problem
knocking
is
you down and slowing down things. And
your other models' points aren't as good as the Iron Hills Dwarves because the Iron Hills Dwarves are already really well pointed. So like, I mean, I think Army of the Dead might actually be very good against it because the Army of the Dead's really good at killing dwarves because hitting them on the courage, and then it's just a case of like your heroes, and your heroes are like not quite as good as Dane and Thorin because Dane and Thorin are really good, especially Dane.
Yeah, the
Dane's
fearless on
stupid.
Dane and the 12-inch courage.
And now he's got Master of Battle because he wasn't good enough. Okay.
I killed one using the scribe. Okay, let's all do that.
Alright, so we need a scribe in every list. Wait, that's impressive. I'm assuming you mean the scribe reinforcements, Chris?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, can't be the
No,
scribe
there's no
itself.
way he means he moved the scribe up the board with 4 goblins carrying it over.
I killed Kalmans with a random climbing goblin in our game who was just like clambering over the rock that was between my army and it. Like,
The other thing that's worth mentioning it though is that when I played against Ryan at Stirling, when the Candish chariot rolled on and charged one of its crew, it shot anyway because it's got 4 crew.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
I
got
had to
4
kill
crew.
3 of the crew before, or, like, charge 3 of the crew before it would stop shooting at my dudes. I was like, please.
Yeah, it's a very, very frustrating thing, but it's not going to be changed for a while, so I guess we have to deal with it and just...
We're gonna stuff will emerge that can play around it.
Yeah.
People will
But-
get better and faster at playing around it.
I'll
but
just
right
keep
now,
ridiculing Calman every time he takes
I
one,
don't
though.
necessarily care that much. Like,
yeah,
I'm playing is not like massively fussed because it has so many models and so many things that you want to shoot at that it kind of paralyzes you a bit. And I know it happened a lot in mine and Calman's games where like he was just at many points in our game just picking random targets that look good
Yeah.
because it's just like that looks like it kills some amount of goblins. We'll do that because I have no idea what I actually want to shoot.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is that it's just kind of annoying. Like, it's knocking your models down, and it's making you split up, and it's like, this is just slowing the game down like hell.
Just
And when you're on a time limit, yeah.
Yeah, but that's. I think a lot of that is also it's a how used to playing it are you, because against Kalman it was slower, but the person who suffered from it being slow was him because I knew what was going on. So just like this, I'm going to move my models, and you're going to have to sit there for 45 minutes while I walk at you, and you don't really do anything with your ballista.
Mhm.
So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. But I imagine we probably will see more of them as they slowly trickle out
Yeah.
into
Well, I
the
think-
ether, because I think one of the things that's holding them back at the moment is they're a more expensive army option than maybe some
Well,
others.
yeah.
I also think that the Lord of the Rings rules came out first, and everyone was trying out the new Lord of the Rings stuff, whereas the Hobbit stuff hasn't changed
Yeah.
recently too
Yeah.
much, so people haven't been running out their like Iron Hills armies because it's pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I definitely. Yeah, I think we'll see a couple more hills. We're 100% going to be seeing more Lake Town. And I'm pretty sure it's purely because James. The amount of people I've seen on trade pages asking to buy Lake Town Guard after James has done so well at. He did really well at Reading and then League Finale.
Well,
Loads of
James
people
has been playing that list for ages because he had a variant pre-rules change that he either won or podiumed at like a couple of low points events, which was Guard and Mirkwood Elves,
Okay.
and it's like it's been doing really well, and people keep looking at it and going, "Isn't that awful?" And I'm like, "No, it's really, really good."
It was like the first time I'd ever seen it was, it was the Reading event. When we would the stream and looked over a list, I was like, Lake Town Guard, what?
Yeah.
And then,
I'm
worked really well.
really pleased because I've wanted to paint the Master of Lake Town for like ever.
That model's so
same.
nice.
I'm the exact same.
So good.
Yeah. And it's Stephen Fry, so even better.
Yeah, it's great. I get to like do voices for my characters when I play that army, so that's going to be wonderful.
Oh, great. Yeah. Do you guys have anything else that you want to mention about the league finale or?
That was it. Apart from it was a pretty awesome tournament.
Yeah, I had a great time.
Venue was good, and the night out was really fun.
So the second night out.
It is a good place to drink.
The first night out where I was like, I don't drink, so there's like maybe a pub that way.
Are some pubs.
Yeah.
If only Calvin was here.
Carl was there for the second night at least, so he took charge of that. But yeah, gonna do a quick break now, and then we're gonna be back talking about the 2018 year as a whole. So probably be like 5 minutes. So go to the toilet, grab yourself a drink, and we should be back in a bit. See you in a bit. Yeah, there you go.
This
Just because
year
we were
it's
about to
like-
talk about it.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
I'll talk about it in a second when people.
There you go.
And
And
we're up again, don't worry.
yeah, we're up, and hopefully the spreadsheet is good. I can't see the live feed, so someone's gonna have to tell me if it's.
I've got better spread. It's all good.
I can't see the spreadsheet on the live feed, but is it supposed to be there?
Will be up. Right, I forgot to press the continue button. Or the transition. It should come up in a second.
There it is.
Is it? Can you see it, or is it?
I don't have it on full screen. I've got like half as the. I've only got one monitor,
Right.
so I've got half as that. Let me check.
So yeah, let me know, guys. Otherwise, I can just make it full screen.
Yeah, you can see it.
Is that
you can
fine?
see it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit blurry, but you can read it.
Yeah. So this is the overall. So if I just jump over to 2018.
Tim says he can
standings.
read it fine too.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. So yeah, overall GBHL standings. So for us, Barney managed to place 7th.
Woo!
Yeah, we're just saying literally just above David Reed. It's like insanely close.
My nemesis. I have still not beaten.
Really. I got in 29th. I guess talk about your 7th. Is that where you hope to be at the start of the year?
Yeah, so my goal for this year was to finish in the top 10 and qualify for the ETC team.
Yeah.
Which I did. So that was like all smiles all round. The only thing I didn't manage to do was win a 100-pointer, was the other thing off my list, but
Okay.
I did manage to podium 3 times, which I hadn't done at all last year, I don't think.
So you podiumed.
You didn't you win the?
I won an 80-pointer last year.
Oh yeah, it was the. I remember you getting crowned.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
You got crowned.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
prize was Aragon's LSR's crown, so they crowned him at the end of the event.
So you
Yep.
came third at Sutton, third at Cardiff, and third at the finale.
So
Pretty
once old edition and 2 in new.
Then I placed 29th, which was literally just in my goal. Because actually I'll say, was it your last position? You got 11th last year, so you improved that. This year I got 29th, and my goal this year was top 30, because I'd got top 32 last year, so
Hit the cut.
just got in. I don't actually know what 4 events. What am I top? Let's have a look. So Altrincham, I got 63. Ardcon, I got 86.
80-something.
Stockport came third. And then GW was 57. Oh,
Yeah.
that's actually not amazing. It's alright, I guess. Yeah. I still think my most proud one is this GW one. Wooden Spoon of Battle Companies. Yeah. I think it was what? I think you weren't playing, but you were there on the first day with Matt, weren't you, Barney? And we were chatting, and we were like, me and Matt were probably the only 2 compared to people here. Matt wins, I come last.
Yeah, it was pretty special.
It wasn't even close. I'm pretty sure I was like 100 Battle Company points behind the person second to last. Like, that's how bad my Battle Company was. I got crushed. I lost like 2 of my heroes in like the first 2 games or something. So it's like, yeah.
To call them a battle company would probably be too much. They were more ranked miscreants.
But it was good fun. It was loads of really fun games. But yes, that was my overall. Then where?
Position today, so that's.
Hmm?
It's your best league position still to date, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
29, 32. That is mathematics.
No idea if it's going to go up this year. Yeah. And then Josh had a bit of a downer from last year.
Why you gotta bring attention to it? Why you gotta draw attention to it, guys?
So yeah, so you,
I feel like I crushed his spirit last year. So
yeah. Because you were second to best newcomer last year.
Yeah,
I was second.
placed 13th.
I was second to best comer the year before that.
So Kalman winning at home for Divas really
Yeah.
been overdue.
Because Martin Seed won up to me the year before that.
I didn't compete this year. I went to a lot of events for fun.
I was going to say, you played a lot of
You remember,
suboptimal
Barney,
list.
you played that first game at Ed's tournament, Ed and Owen's tournament, where I had like Azog and an Ogre. Azog on foot and an Ogre at like 400 points. And you had like 50 hobbits and a wizard, and I was like, what the hell? What is this? And we played Ilmet or something, didn't we?
Another game where hobbits got +1 to wound.
Yeah, we played Ilmet, and you just shot my army to pieces. And then Azog double won his courage test and ran off the board in the last turn. I was trying to keep him alive to deny EVPs.
Because you were being a coward and running him away. That's what you get.
You sat a wizard behind 50 hobbits. You blasted an ogre into like 5 guys.
If you can turn up to the 100-point event without filth and expect not to get filth,
He's got a very good point.
Turn up to the 100-point event without filth. You place 41st. That's my lesson.
So you also did you took Fellowship and Can to Sterling.
Yeah,
Did you
some would say not the most competitive lists.
Did you take Fellowship to Ardacon?
No, I competed at Ardacon. I took God of the Phantom Gods and High Elves. I just lost.
Yeah.
I just played poorly and lost most of
You
my
literally you picked up my mantle from last year.
I think I went free. I think I placed like dead middle or something like
You
that.
got 44.6 points.
Oh, I think I placed bottom of free then. I remember playing I can't remember his name. It was a foreign guy that I played first game, but he was very nice and absolutely smashed me. He was a really good player. He had like hobbits, and then I lost a couple other games. I ran out of time in one of them, which kind of hurt. I think I could have won that, but it just took ages. And then I lost another one that was really close.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of my games in Ardacon felt really one-sided, honestly. Like I either won them really hard or lost them really hard.
Yeah.
But yeah, not a great year, but I wasn't really trying too hard. I had a lot of fun at the events, which was kind of nice. I picked it up a bit at League Finale with your list. Like those were probably, besides Ardacon, that was probably the most competitive list I played.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys struggled with this, but I got like sort of middle of the year, and I was like, I just wanted it to be the new edition now. Like I can't.
I know a lot of people have that.
The same.
Yeah.
I think that affected.
I was
just that
I was messing around a lot.
I didn't go to any tournaments for like months there.
I was messing around a lot, so it wasn't too bad for me. Like I took the 9 on horse to the league opener, and I played like Tom Bombadil in the GT, and then like 4 cave trolls or something. So I was just trying out stuff, just running out weird lists because it was fun. So I didn't like run into that as much, but it more happened to me at the end of the last year where I was just sick of playing wizards every game. I was kind of bored of it.
I think it was, I had the same last year. It was like there was literally, I think last year in August, I literally just turned around to the chess line and was like, I'm not playing Hobbit. I can't do it. I just went off and played like a bunch of 40k and stuff, but then came back. But it's always good to have like a bit of a break from stuff.
Yeah, I like taking this year off kind of, because the thing with the league is that it's really cool because it changed the events together.
Yeah.
But it means that you feel like you want to compete at every event, and then sometimes, like I was pretty stressed at a bunch of events last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I don't know if you remember, Barney, but at Cardiff I was like top table for most of it, and then got knocked down right at the end.
Back to back, and then went to 4th at the end, and it was like...
that was a really I enjoyed the weekend, but I didn't enjoy it as much as I could have done because I was like stressed about the games, and then I was a bit like put out at the end when I got knocked from 1st to 4th. Like to be top table for like 4 games and then not podium, especially when I've been like focused so in on it, it kind of sucked for me. So like it was nice to just take a break and like lose games and be like, yeah, whatever, not be that bothered by it. So
I think that's one of the reasons why I enjoy going out like and getting
smashed
drunk on the Saturday night.
Yeah.
On the Sunday, I don't really mind because I'm like, my first game's always much less pressure because I'm usually still pissed.
Mm-hmm.
To be fair, I think that's one of the reasons I enjoyed the Battle Companies one so much. Because like, I went into every game just like, first off, we didn't realise it was a GBHL event. So that also took a bit of stress off me because I was like, it's not worth points, I don't care. So it's like, I was going into all the games just like, I'm just going to have a good time. I've never met most of these people. A lot of the people were having like some of their first games, so it was just good to just chill and not really care about the result. Which it's one of the reasons I like playing. There's one of the local guys, Aiden, who plays Gondor, and we played a few like rounds against Gondor lists since the new edition. And it's some of the fun games just because it doesn't matter about how it goes. We're just having a good time.
Yeah,
It's good to have now and then.
Well, that kind of ties into like the topic that we were going to talk about favorite tournaments, because my favorite tournament this season by far was my first Seven Stones, which was so fun and so ridiculous, and I got to play with models that I just never would play with, and it was awesome. And it was just like a really nice social weekend that like involved Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely my favourite, and I'm really looking forward to doing it again this year.
For me, I've found that the way that I like to play the game is to compete, like play an army that can can fight every game. But I don't like doing the really filthy stuff. I don't like my opponent being bummed out, and I don't like the stuff that you've got to do at that very highest level, like calling people on with me's, that type of stuff. It feels kind of cheap to me. Like I'm not that bothered when people do it to me. Normally, I've been a bit frustrated by it once or twice, but I get it. But it's something that I personally don't like doing, and I think
Feel bad.
Yeah, it's one of those. So I think that's influenced, like, because my favorite tournament's Sterling, and I think it's because it's like it does everything really well. It's got really high standard of boards. It's exactly where I want it to be for competitive, where it's a 100-point event, but it's nothing like crazy.
Yeah,
like, it's just for me, it's just the best all-round tournament. It does everything really well.
Yeah, I'd certainly say that Sterling's in my top 3 this year, because it's my first Sterling as well, and that was really cool.
Have you seen the chat, Barney?
Yeah, Chris Murphy. I'm not sure if I can accept liking 7 Stones over Sterling. Tim Hickson asked an interesting question. Does competing for podium positions all the time suck the fun out of the game if you don't take a break? I think
depends on
kind
the person.
of like I think I found where I want to be with the game. So I think most tournaments I'll be going to now, I'll always be competing, but not like stressing too much about it. And I hope that'll be right for me. But I think I think that anyone, if they all in the game consistently, surely you burn out at some point. Like, Ed does it, right? Top table players do it, but they take breaks, right? I know Jay has time off. I don't know about Ed, because all the time that I've been in, that Ed's been competing. But
Ed attends most tournaments, but Ed's massive into war games, so he does I'd say he's probably a bit of an exception because he's always playing war games. It seems. It's just what he does.
He plays other games as well, so it's not the only game he plays. And same with Jay, they all play other systems, and so that helps a lot if you've got other systems that you don't necessarily care as much about. For me, one of the things that completely removes the kind of grind aspect of it is I go to every tournament expecting it to be a social weekend, and if I lose, then that's not necessarily the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
The other element as well is because I really enjoyed the painting aspect of the hobby.
Yeah,
I like that element because I can turn up with my army that I've put loads of effort into, and I might have a shot of winning something else.
Mm-hmm.
And occasionally I try and not be an arsehole when I play, and I might win best sporting. There's the good thing about the tournaments is that they offer on so many different levels that even if you're competing all the time, you can still get fulfillment out of them, even if you're not winning.
Mm-hmm. I think that was my mistake in the first year. Because I was competing for newcomer, I all-ined on it too much. There wasn't a lot else at the tournament. I still enjoyed the social aspects, and I still enjoyed playing the game, but it didn't. I was gonna say it felt like a wasted weekend, but that's not true because I enjoyed every tournament I went to at the same time. But it felt like at the end of the day, not placing podium was even in situations where I think it was fair to myself that I didn't do it. It felt like rubbish for me. So I don't think you need to take a break all the time. I don't think you need breaks. I think you just gotta find your stride and roll with it as far as events go.
Yeah, it's definitely one. I had the same issue last year. It was especially 7 Stones. Seven Stones was probably for me personally. It's an amazing event, but for me, it was one of the worst weekends I've had as a tournament because I couldn't get into my head the fun aspect. Because it's like we played the first game. I'm gonna be honest. This is completely my fault. I probably ruined Josh's weekend. We played the first game. We made a communication error, and that tilted me for the entire weekend because we lost the game, and I was so mad at myself.
We misplayed. I can't remember exactly what happened.
I think
but
I
it was
ran
something-
too many models off in recon.
Yeah, you ran too many models off, and I'd said something that made you think
It was fine
the
to do
game
so.
ended on broken.
Yeah.
But what I meant was that we'll break and more of our dealers run off, and then we'll 25%. So I think what I said was the game's basically over when we break.
Yeah.
Was
So
what I
was
said.
like, okay, I'll
Because we
just
had
run off,
Courage 2
guys.
Army wide, and he ran off one too many models for us to 25% in recon. We killed the rest of our army, realized the game hadn't ended, and we lost it. And Gethin got really tilted off it, and the rest of the weekend was really awkward.
Yeah.
He was like tilted. The very last game we played, I remember he literally just suicided his army to close it out in as fast a time as possible. I was like, whew.
Yeah. I was like, there were also a few times last year. It was like if I lost certain games, I'd get really like just frustrated about it and stuff. It was like this year I've taken a lot more calmer of kind of because I've stuck with like the Helmingas list, and I'm like, I know it's not a top table list, so my aim is to get like 3 or 4 wins, which I can do. It's just like I end up end of the weekend just like a lot happier, honestly.
Yeah. Play the game the way you want to play it. And I don't. It's got to be a hobby that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the other things that benefits me is I tend not to play the tournaments as tournaments because my main goal while I'm playing is to learn something that I didn't know going into that game. And so, like, there'll be games where I lose and I'll be sitting staring at the table for half an hour trying to work out a positive that I can take away from the game. And some people look at me like, what are you doing? Like, it's okay, you lost, it's fine. And it's like, no, I'm actually like just trying to eke out more positives from this experience, as well as the fact that I'm, getting crushed. Because that happened at Sterling this year when I got absolutely minced by Dale with the Balrog. It's just like, what am I going to take away from this game? And like the main point I took away was that now I know that the Balrog can feint, so that's really nice. And then in the next game with my Balrog, I killed like multiple elves with my re-rolling ones, so it's pretty satisfying. But it's just stuff like that where it's like it's kind of depends what you want to get out of the hobby, and like for me, it's always social first and then everything else. So like
it's all about winning.
It's very unlikely that I'm going to be not going out drinking because it's going to negatively impact my performance on the next day, because ultimately I'd rather do the former.
That's fair enough. Yeah. Let's have a look at the. Just gonna have a look at the top 10, because this is the. So if you look in column L for people on the stream, this is the people that. Let's see, what's it? The GBHL players are fun to spend time with, and the reason I fly out, to be honest. Yeah, a lot of the GBHL are definitely really nice.
Oh yeah, so, I wouldn't still be going to these tournaments if I didn't like everyone out there.
I've done, like, before I did GBHL, I tried some, like, 40k ones while I was at uni. The community is so different. Like, it's insanely different. Like, I think there's less than a handful of players in the GBHL community that I wouldn't want to play in a game. Like, if that.
And more often it's the list that you don't want to play against, right? Than the player. Like, to be honest.
It's like, when I went to the ETC, and Barney could probably echo this. Don't think there were any games that I hated actually, there was one game, but 5 of the 6 games that I didn't hate the opponents. Oh, hate's a bit of a strong word, but yeah, the 5 of my 6 opponents I would like to play again.
Yeah.
The ETC, and that's the most competitive tournament for the Hobbit.
Yeah, I mean, my experience with the ETC was slightly different because I had some more negative experiences.
Wasn't only the one player?
Well, I had a negative experience with one player, but I think a large portion of that was due to a language barrier.
Yeah.
and also like the way that judging works for Lord of the Rings compared to how it works for other games is completely different. In that there's a lot of arguing, which I just don't understand. Like, because like primarily coming from like a Magic background, is you don't like. It's a bit like talking to a rugby referee. Like, you don't get to argue with people. You get a ruling, you appeal the ruling. If you appeal doesn't go your way, the ruling is the ruling. Like, you don't get to like throw your arms around and have a tantrum because it's not. And I think a lot of that comes from some of the rules being a bit more wordy and slightly subjective, and then obviously you've got the language barrier on top of that, making it even more difficult. So I had a bit of that, had a bit of slow play issues, but like again, that happens with almost every competitive game and is very difficult to deal with.
It's one of the hardest things to combat slow play. I think it's like I think Dave Nolan put up a post in. It was either the committee page or the competitive forum. Just like
I think it was in the competitive forum asking like how
about,
to
like,
deal with.
And like, do you put in clocks, like chess clocks? And it was just like, it's so hard to do because am I slow playing or am I actually just thinking about everything? Like your game against Josh at the League Finale, for example. Like, you obviously weren't slow. He obviously wasn't slow playing. It took you 30 minutes to do one turn because you needed to think about all these things.
I think the easiest way to deal with slow play is to make sure that you are well staffed with like marshals, refs, whatever you want to call them, and that if there is reports or complaints of a player having some kind of slightly dubious behaviour, that you just assign someone to watch those games.
Yeah, definitely.
It reinforce when things are not necessarily being played at the pace that they should be.
Yeah.
Like that is a perfectly fine system. The problem is it requires people to be slightly confrontational with their opponents, which I get why, but like
most people don't want to. Like,
like if you're committing to play at like the top competitive level, it's kind of like what you're pricing yourself into.
Yeah, most people that go to tournaments, they're not that bothered. Like, they're willing to sacrifice, a placing in a tournament just to not cause issues. Because it's gonna. If like, I've had it before where I thought this isn't on, but I don't want to like call them because it's just gonna ruin the weekend for like me and them if it blows up into a big thing. Like, I'll take dropping 3 or 4 places rather than doing that most of the time.
I know a lot of people are just like, if you care that much, go for it.
Have it, mate. Yeah.
Which is completely different to the 40k scene. I can tell you that. But yeah.
I remember. I can't remember who it was. At Ardacon, but they were playing at someone who didn't speak any English, and there was like a complete communication breakdown, I think, and he misunderstood. It was like how many models he was off break. This person I know was off breaking, and who the leader was. So it got to the end of the game. I think it was. Yeah, got to the end of the game, and he thought he'd won. This guy that didn't speak any English, and he hadn't. And my friend just went. To be fair to him, if what he thought was true, he would have won. So I kind of just let him have it.
Yeah.
Just because he's not that bothered about how he places, and calling a ref, it just caused a fuss and an argument, and like they'd have to resolve it. And he was like, "I'm not that bothered about a game, to be honest. I'd rather it just not cause any issues." And I think that's fair, and I think that's where the conflict emerges because you're playing a competitive tournament for fun. It's bridging those two, and like, there's obviously going to be problems with them. I don't think there's any solutions to some of them.
Yeah, I mean, I've barely had any negative experiences this year. I'm struggling to think of any going back through the tournaments. Like, it's almost all positive, really.
I've had 2. Which I'm pretty sure both of you know about. But I'm not gonna call people out.
It just happens sometimes. Not normally as well. When it happens, it's a one-off. Like, honestly, a lot of the times when I have an issue, it's like something's happened and it just doesn't happen again because it's a one-off situation where problems emerged. It's like, well, it happens.
Like, a lot of it is a misalignment of why you and your opponent are playing the game.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm playing a game and you're playing a game, but what the bits of the game that I sort of take value from are different to what extracting from it,
Mhm.
and that's kind of where the difficulty lies.
Yeah.
Because like the best games I have are the ones that are like the one that we played at the final, which are
Yeah.
competitive but completely amicable at all points.
Played in the spirit of the game, but
Played in the
never
spirit.
playing too.
Yeah.
Never
I-
playing below a level that's like
Yeah.
competitive.
I'd say
We're
that's
both trying
definitely
to
my
win at all
favourite.
points.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite kind of game.
It's for me. It's things like if we both know what the other person meant, and we're trying to essentially alter the state of what we both know to be true for one of our personal gain within the game. That's like what I would deem to be not necessarily sporting. I think like there's a certain level, and you just have to set. For me, like I don't mind if people want to do things like with me, etc., as long as I know the playing field at the start of the game. Because one of the things I really dislike is starting off thinking we're playing a lovely, friendly game, we're going to be really reasonable, and then somebody just like randomly ball bust me
Yes.
out of nowhere, and just be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
is that how we play this game now? Okay then."
Especially when you're playing new people that you don't really know. It's like
That you've never played before.
yeah, I've
and
definitely
you're
had.
nice casual game, and then suddenly it's not.
It's like I've had the situation before where I've gone into it and I've like I don't know this person, but from how they're like chatting and stuff, I assume that they're going to be like a bit more friendly. So I've not called them on stuff, and then I've done something. They've called me something that's like really stupid. I'm like, what do I? I mean, I guess I can't do it because you're right, but what the hell?
Yeah.
I've had that happen a few times.
It is one of those where intent versus like actual playing is a thing, and then the other things are when people can do things and don't realize, and like you like the fainting thing.
Mhm.
Like I've had situations where someone said, "Oh, I forgot to say faint," and I was like, "If you meant to, there's no reason not to. You know, you've got a spare support or whatever. You may as well."
I
Or,
like. Go sorry.
I was just gonna say the big one for me is when someone like measures and they go, "These guys are just out of 6," and you say, "Okay." And then you measure it and they're just in. Like I'll always go, "Oh, they're just in. Do you want to push them back a bit?" That type of stuff. Whereas some people will go, "Oh, you've made a mistake. I'm going to charge you."
Main one.
Yeah.
It's why I get my opponent. Like if my opponents want to be funny, I'll just make them remeasure all of my intentions.
Yeah. It speeds up the game to be friendly like that, though.
Yeah.
These are 6. Do you agree? Yes. Yeah. It makes it because the games requires so much precision. If you allow for a small amount of inaccuracy and sort of like gentlemanly agreement between the two of you, it makes the game go so much faster.
Yeah.
Because it's just mental shortcutting for both of you, and you don't have to like be millimeter precise with every move. And like, sure, it's important to be millimeter precise with some of them, but yeah.
Hey, Crumpton. Let's see. I had someone once tell me throughout the game that I couldn't use Dane's Hammer two-handed because it didn't state.
Technically correct. It's like the chop thing with the Abrakan guard, right? That you technically have to state that you're always chopping with your two-handed weapon that's free to do so, but like.
Or it's that stupid for stones one with Hobbit where like you have to declare it. I'm like, well, if they didn't move.
Yeah, I like Damien O'Byrne's way with it. It's basically if I can't affect you, redo it. Like, oh, is Metacall with me? I was like, yeah, I couldn't change that. Oh, these guys are meant to move to support here. It's like, yeah, sure, I wasn't going to change. There's nothing I can do to actually change it, and you're not changing your mind because of what I've done.
It's a steps of distance though too. Like, if the movement phase, if they move a space spot somewhere, move a couple bottles, and they go, "Oh no, sorry, I should have moved him over here." I'm like fine with them to fudge it.
Yeah.
But if they've like charged somewhere, moved 40, 30 models,
Yes.
and then realized they can't get like that was wrong. You can't move all those models back. It's just too late at that point, right?
I agree.
Yeah,
with that.
there's definitely like a line that it crosses. I mean, I agree with what Tim said, where it's
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
like the easy fix for the two-handed thing is that you just state it at the start of the game.
But then some people are finicky and say, no, you got to say every combat. So
I quite often like reel off a list of things that I am going to shortcut in the game and get my opponent to agree.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like it just makes it quicker for the both of us. And if they say no, I explain that to them.
Yeah.
And then at that point, if they want to be really finicky, then I'm perfectly happy to call them at every possible opportunity.
Yeah.
Because like if you want to make the game difficult, we can play the difficult game. I don't mind playing it. but like, yeah, it's essentially like, but that's like sort of trying to teach someone a lesson as to why you don't necessarily play like
It
that.
almost never happens to.
It's very rare. Like, and to be honest, it's usually either somebody who is competitive that is new to the game that wants to play like that, or someone who's just insanely competitive. And turns out there's not actually that many people who are like that.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, I definitely agree with what you're both saying. That is like at the start of most games, I'm just like, okay, so work out the terrain. Can you fit through this? Are we saying this is impossible? Be like, if the dice isn't flat on the table, it's cocked no matter what.
Yeah.
Just like
taking a second at the start of the game, taking a minute to just agree everything is such a big deal.
Yeah, going through doing the terrain, it's really important.
The worst thing is just like, okay, so I can get in this bit of terrain, climb this bit, and do that, and then you go to do it, and your opponent's like, oh, you can't do that. It's like, what? Yeah, see you, Tim.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so have you guys got anything else that you want to talk about from like the year as a whole from last year's league?
I was going to bring up the newcomer thing. Of just
the newcomer thing. That was
how
really
close it is.
It was like crushingly close.
Yeah.
How close was it before the final?
It was like 0.2.
It was So this year, Calman was ahead of CJ by 0.02 points going into the finale, and that was only because Calman had come first at Sterling.
Yeah, he like won the 80-point event and then won Sterling.
Yeah.
Like in quick succession, and I think CJ was first up until then.
He came second at Sterling, right? He lost to Jay.
Oh yeah,
second. Sorry, yeah. What am I talking about? Yeah. Won the 80-pointer event, came second at Sterling, 0.2 points ahead of CJ. I don't think I've seen Calman sweat so much. Like all of like the practice games and stuff leading up to that, me and Dale just winding him up all the time. It was beautiful. And then
I was joking with him when I drew CJ round one, as I just forfeit the game.
Yeah.
Give him the 12.
Yeah, but it was definitely very, very close top.
I feel bad for CJ honestly, because he had it for like the entire year, and then Calman
just came along and stole it.
Disgusting run in like the last 3 tournaments of the year.
I feel slightly bad for Jakob as well, because
he came across a bunch, didn't
he couldn't attend quite a few of the 100-pointers because he doesn't live in the UK, or does he?
No, he doesn't. I'm pretty sure
I think his girlfriend lives in London, but I might be wrong about that.
Yeah.
And he spends most of the time in Poland, so he's not to attend loads of events.
Yeah. So he only attended 6 this year.
He said he got a bit unlucky. I think it was Ardacon and one other, and he said, I think by Sterling I think he said he knew that he wasn't going to make it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure his round 1 matchup was against world champion at Ardacon, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah.
It's one of those where being able to attend tournaments is a really big deal. I know last year I couldn't get a ticket for League Finale, which was like which at that point I couldn't pip you at all. I didn't have any chance. Probably wasn't going to happen because of how the density of good players in League Finale. But just being able to get tickets for them is a big deal, especially with the fact that there's a lot more players now than there used to be.
Yeah, yeah. It's I was saying when I was looking at like our year versus that we were competing for newcomer versus this year, like it's so close, and like that last event was the only thing that would have made a difference really, because like our scores were 254.7 and 243.5 respectively, and so like that would have put us like right in the pack with everyone competing for that last event, so it would have been it would have been tighter, which is nice to see. It's still like people are still I'm really happy that people are like actually competing for newcomer. That's like that's the thing, like that's really cool. To give
Chris has said
a goal that they can set themselves.
Yeah, Chris was saying Jakob was at uni but moved back to Poland.
Okay. Yeah. I think it's cool to have awards like that, because like you know Ed and Jay are tearing it up, right? But they're pretty much always at the top, so it's cool to have like things that other people can win.
Yeah.
You know,
I think one of the things that's been discussed currently, Barney may know more details than me, is potential for more prizes. Like, because it's kind of being split into regions now, so north, central, and south. So I don't know what the new committee's doing because I'm not on it, but there is potential for more prizes,
Yeah,
even if there's not a physical prize, just something.
It's a topic that's been discussed, and something that we're looking at doing with the ranking sheets is trying to sort of increase the breadth of ways that you can engage in the league and try and encourage people to be able to sort of associate with GBHL as they would in their normal hobby activities. So, like, if you don't really want to travel and you only want to play in your region, then maybe there'll be some kind of prize for being the best person playing in the South or the best newcomer in the South. Similarly, like, if you're the most sporting player across the entire GBHL, maybe that'll award some kind of prize.
Yeah.
There's potential for loads of things. There's potential for things like team rankings that you could associate with and stuff like that. So there's lots of stuff that we're playing with, and we'd like to try and sort of increase the number of different ways that people can compete, just so that there's loads of avenues that you can enjoy the hobby from, rather than just either win, lose, or turn up and engage. Because like, I know that lots of people just turn up for the love of the hobby, and it'd be quite nice for them to have some other ways that they'd maybe engage. Because like, most people aren't going to rock up and be like, yeah, I can beat Jay, I can beat Ed, like, because it's just not feasible. Like, but they might be like, oh yeah, I could totally be like the best new player in the north of England or whatever.
Yeah, well, it's like, especially north and south, because
Yeah.
well, I guess even like, because what, north you've got the Scots, they're not.
Yeah, north income.
They're not easy games.
Currently.
I guess Yorkshire is Yorkshire in the north as well.
Yorkshire, I believe is.
So there's some good players in Yorkshire, and then south has got like.
The South currently have a league already.
Yeah.
They have a separate organisation for running, like, a lot of their 80 pointers and stuff count within their Southern League. So they've already got something already set up.
It's like they've already got some, like, what, Callum Edens, Dave Clubley, CJ, Dewey, Lou.
Yeah.
There's loads of really good players down south.
Damien
Tom, yeah. Apologies if we missed anyone.
There's plenty. I mean, I think that's the beauty of the league growing so much, is that there's so many players. Like,
but it's one of the reasons though that, like, Alistair wanted to do the split, and like I think Stephen J wanted to do the split as well. I think because they were the two that went for the committee.
It makes it a lot easier from a management perspective as well, having not all of the TOs answering to one, like, committee member. So being able to split the events between us so that we can give more time and attention to them is just more sensible.
So I just get to shout at you now.
Yeah, pretty much. But that's fine. Like, it's pretty exciting that the league's growing like a pretty substantial rate, and I'll be really interested to see like how much it grows again with this new full year of new edition rules.
We've already seen like there's over 1,000 new people since the edition came out on the GBHL page.
Yeah, it's just seeing how that influx into the group affects like people's active engagement with tournaments, because that's one thing that like the league's very committed to, is trying to get like all of the long-term lurkers to come and engage in a tournament, because like there's loads of people at home with loads of Lord of the Rings models having a great time just sitting and painting, and it'd be really nice for them to be like, well, certainly I think have more people actively involved in the wider community and coming up to events and stuff, because turns out new people are great, and having new faces at tournaments makes it much more exciting than just playing the same people all over again. Yeah,
well, it's like I guess one of the issues that we've got is the fact that they are still tournaments, and they're labelled tournaments, so a lot of people who haven't really attended them or don't know too much are like, well, I'm not a competitive player. It's like, fair enough, don't go to some of the 100-point events maybe you wouldn't want to touch. All the 80-pointer events are more than welcome to new players. I've played people at even 100-point events. It's their like first games, and it's just like it doesn't matter how much you've played, how competitive you are. For the Hobbit community, if you do like Middle Earth, yes, come along. Like, come along and play. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter what your
totally
skill
brilliant.
level is. Doesn't matter what your painting level is. If you like Middle Earth, you're welcome.
It's only really truly a tournament for like the top half.
Yeah.
I want to say
If
for a
that.
lot for the GT especially. Like there's like 100 people at the GT, right?
Yes.
And I think it's only sort of the top 40 or 50 that are like really seriously competing most of the time.
Mhm.
And even at that, you probably knock it down to like 30 people that are seriously competing. Like especially when you get into like the bottom
Yeah.
half.
It was like
There's
if you,
people that are competing, but they're not crazy or anything. Like it's nothing too crazy. It's definitely worth coming down.
if you're not going competitive and you lose like your like first, second game, you're probably playing against people like you,
Mhm.
like who have the same goals. You're there because you enjoy the hobby. You want to have a good laugh.
And even the people on the top want that too. That's why they're there.
Well, it's also like a lot of the tournaments now are trending towards that more and more. So like Throne of Skulls and the GT are both offering like points towards like your tournament placing based upon how sporting you are, how nice your army looks.
Yeah.
Like there's so many different ways that you can engage. Similarly, there's events like Seven Stones where it's all about being a bit silly.
All about
And,
the
like,
theme and having
all that theme and having fun. And there's plenty of events like that. Loads of like that's what the 80 pointers do really well is they provide like a lovely like here's my local game store or like club that's running an event that's an 80 pointer that's like super nice and I can just go down and meet some people who love Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and like that.
was like my two 80-point events for Beacons of Chester last year. All 7 scenarios were based on things from the film. So all 7 of them were custom scenarios based on scenes that are in the Lord of the Rings films, and all 6 of the scenarios from this year's one were based on things from the Hobbit films. It's like completely new scenarios. Most of the people hadn't read the rules pack, so they just turned up and were like, "Whoa, I guess this is how we do it." Yeah, it's like I think the best one was the Barrows Out of Bond one. They're like, "So I have to get across," and okay, and they were just rolling dice.
Yeah, I mean, like that's one of my favorite tournaments that I played during the newcomer year was White Rose Fest, just because it was absolutely crackers at all points in time.
White Rose Fest is something else. I personally wouldn't enjoy the event because I'm not like massive into drinking and I'm not the most outdoorsy person. But like, if there's camping, there's archery, there's beer pong, there's random doubles tournaments where you get placed with a random person that you've never met.
All of the
all part of the tournament.
Extra bits in, like it's a really awesome event. I am actually I didn't manage to go last year, and I'm actually gonna try and go this year. I think.
Yeah, I think I spoke to.
My enjoyment of that depends on like which of my friends are going and stuff, because it is very much like a big community thing for me. Because like I wouldn't choose to go camping usually, but I will do it if everyone else is doing it. It's kind of one of those. But yeah, it's. I think it's going to be really interesting because I know that Damien and Tom were talking about developing the more sort of seminary, sort of interest in Lord of the Rings, painting, modelling aspect of Seven Stones this year. So I'll be really excited to see like what they do with that and see how far they get with sort of development of that idea. Because yeah, as I said, I really like that event. And I think it's going certainly in the right direction. And
it is one of the good things about the league, how there is the large variety, and there's even more events next year, and then there's probably going to be even more the year after when we get in the regional stuff.
Yeah, well, it's going to be some interesting balancing because we're going to have to look at sort of like how many events can we have, like how does clashing work, because we want to encourage there to be enough tournaments for the demand, but we don't want to put so many tournaments on that some TOs feel like they're getting stifled and losing people from their events. So it's a fine balancing act, but we'll
and I guess next year there'll be some like central events that aren't GBHL, and it'll be fine to have a non-GBHL central event at the same time as a non-GBHL North event, or like a north and a south because they won't conflict as much.
Yeah. Hilariously,
help.
the centre is obviously the most awkward place because it has the most events that could clash because the centre clashes with both the north and the south because it's in the middle.
Yeah.
Whilst having a north and a south event at the same time isn't really a big issue because you're probably not driving from Cardiff to Ripon,
And then,
for example.
I guess most of the central events is Manchester, Nottingham anyway.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting year. I'm sure we'll see what it does. Certainly this year, I think a lot of the changes and stuff that we're looking at are probably going to be coming in 2020, because a lot of the stuff has been confirmed already for this year. So,
yeah,
exciting.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be good fun.
I'm really excited about the opener next week and this week.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck to you that.
Well, the pairings and stuff have been sent out for the Masters, and it looks like the grimmest tournament I'm ever going to play in my life. So,
Oh yeah, you sent me the things for that, didn't you?
it's pretty spectacular. I'm not sure if I did, but I can send you them now. It's pretty funny.
Oh, you didn't send me the actual standings, but I've got
Let me see if I can find
a
it.
thing of the percentage for the list.
But as far as I'm aware, it is going. Oh, it's here. Share this with you. It is going to be streamed, and there is going to be some commentary, so people can tune into that. Let me just pop this in our group chat. There you go.
On Facebook, okay.
But there's going to be some content for that coverage.
I assume this is fine.
The tournament itself is some of the grimmest Lord of the Rings you could ever play, really.
Have fun with that one.
So, for those of you, are you pulling it up on screen so that people can see?
Yeah, give me a sec. I'm assuming this is fine to show.
This is all public because it's just seeded off of standings. So.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. 116, 215.
I was gonna say I don't want to piss Will off.
One of the people that's drawn the shortest straw, I think, is actually Will, who's somehow managed to be playing from his third seed. Is somehow managed to play Nick.
Yeah, that's rough.
Because of work, and so he's fallen down a few paces, but is still well and truly within the top 16. So it's or at least,
that is rough.
We'll do that. So now we got the standings and then also percentage. Oh no, that's a different tournament. The armies, isn't it? Never mind. Ignore that pie chart.
That's the one-day event.
Yeah,
that's the Saturday event, isn't it?
Yeah, so there's the standings. So we got Jay Clare against Nuge, Dave Reed against Ryan Hinch, Alistair King against Harry Moore, James Braun against Matt Wilding, Ed Ball against Dan Hookvale, Barney against Jasmine. Oh, good luck, Barney. World champion against Mick, Cal against Dave Reed.
It's just really depressing. If I beat Jasmine, then I have to beat Dan or Ed after that, and I have to beat any of those other people in the bottom bracket below
Will, Mick, Calvin, or Dave Club. This is what you say. Oh, good luck with that matchup. Any other matchup would be that much better.
Yeah.
It's whoever you get on this, you
The thing is, whoever beats whoever, it's all horrendous.
Well, that's the whole point of this tournament, which is why I think it's probably it's 100% the most. It's probably the most competitive event that's going to be run in the UK this year. 100%.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be wicked. I'm looking forward to the 100-pointer as well the day before because it's gonna be a really interesting weekend because it's a one-day 100-pointer, which is sort of the warm-up for most of the players for the Masters.
Yeah. How long's Masters? Is that only one day as well? 4 games.
Yeah. So. The Masters is just straight elimination, pretty much. So it's 4 rounds, but it's you can only place off of those seedings.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be.
I think we spoke about this on the stream, haven't we, Josh? The idea.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we spoke about it last time. It's just
last episode.
It's not the. It's probably one of the most ideal ways to do a Masters event from a player and a TO perspective, but the best way overall to do it would be best of 3s, but that would take so long.
Yeah,
stuff.
especially because dice is such a big factor in matchup
Yeah.
and scenario. It'd be like
It's just the fact that if you get bad dice rolls against Jasmine and you get knocked out, it's like
I think one of the
kinda
issues,
sucks.
the other issue with best of threes is that it's like you will have some people who win 2-0 and then you'll have some people who win 2-1, and
Yeah.
like that makes it so much longer because that's like 3 hours.
Could you?
So I guess you could do it if you wanted to do a 2-day Masters. You could do best of threes, and that'd be really interesting.
I was gonna say, could you do a 2-day format with first days groups?
Yes, you could certainly do that and expand it.
So you'd have like Jay and Nuge, Dave Reed and Brian would be in a group. They play each other once, and then only the winner goes through to the semis, who would play the winner of Alistair, Harry, James, and Matt. I think
it might have to.
It
To be
takes-
honest, if you're gonna have players play multiple games against the same opponent, you'd probably have to break it up across 2 different tournaments. You probably have to have like a group stage tournament and then a
That
semis to quarterfinals tournament.
Yeah, how you've just structured it would actually work, where you play everyone in your group, and then you have a, so like say the top group would be Jay, Anuj, Dave, and Ryan. The first place of that would go through playing the second place of the 4 players below, and then the second place would go through playing the first place of the group below.
Mm-hmm.
So say like Jay won the top group and Harry came second in the bottom group, they'd play, and then Alistair would play the second place player from Jay's group.
How many games does that leave for the second day?
I was skipping quarters.
So that means 3 games on day
1.
one, and then you've got
To be fair, the best way to do it would be to do 2
half
tournaments.
the players after that, which is 8 players, which leaves you with a 3-round tournament.
Yeah.
So it's 6 rounds total.
But you could also do group stage day 1.
Yeah.
Quarterfinals day 2. Then have
Best of
another
3
tournament. All
Best of 3 quarters and then
and
best
then
of
have
3
another tournament
semis
for
and
best of 3
finals,
semis and
tournament.
finals.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's like so hard to organize and stuff. This is like the ideal situation. No one would want to do a
it's
4-day
fitting into
tournament.
2
Oh my.
days is a problem.
Yep.
And then the other thing is playing 3 games against the same person.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I got bored of that.
I was gonna say, if you get smashed in the first game, that's gonna be so demoralizing.
Or if you get into an argument with someone about one of those rules conflicts you were talking about.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think it's feasible for a game like this.
It'd be the most ideal like situation, but
From a competitive
from a
perspective.
competitive perspective, but yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, I actually, I find best of one really interesting as a like concept for the game, because it means that you can't do the more riskier edge plays that you would do in games that have best of 3, because you can't necessarily claw it back into other games.
I like Chris's comment, or a league over a year.
It's true.
Yeah, true. That is true.
It could work quite well.
I think the only thing that people have with a league over a year is it's really hard to attend all the events and compete in all of them.
Yeah.
Whereas one tournament.
That's the whole point of the Masters, though, isn't
Yeah,
it?
you can attend one tournament and then you've got a 1 day where you can actually win something, even if you can't make it to every single one.
Is like, I mean, some of these players I've played like maybe once this year,
Mm-hmm.
if that.
Mhm.
I know that like before the finals, I'd never played Kalman. I think I've played Alistair once. Yeah, like, and this year certainly I've not played against a huge number of them. I think that's quite nice, especially as the league grows. You're going to have more players that can qualify that just play like all of the southern events, and
Yeah.
then one of the Scottish players might never have played them or has only seen them in passing at tournaments,
Mhm.
and to be able to like play with all of those players is really nice, because obviously we're going to play all of the rounds, even though the games after you
Yeah.
lose are really important. But
Okay, that'd be awful if you lost the first game. They just had to sit there for the rest of it.
there's things like most sporting master available, so
Oh, really?
it's like Who's the most sportsmanlike? Like
My vote's for Dan Hookville.
But yeah, it's going to be a good tournament. I'm excited.
It's going to be a lot easier to get most sporting once you're out the running there, surely.
Yeah.
If you can, like, the further through the tournament you get and still win most sporting, I think is a really impressive feat.
But,
Oh, yeah,
but to
that'd
be
be
fair,
impressive,
if you're out, you're only playing against other people that are out.
Yeah.
It's all everyone's trying to be nice at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you're still playing for placement in the Masters if you care about that. There'll be some people that care about that. I mean, this tournament is in a pub, so I know probably what I'm going to be doing
if you lose first game. I think it's going to get out of hand real
I can
quick.
imagine Alistair Kingsby do that even if he wins the first game.
Most inebriated Masters isn't a prize, but I will attempt to win it if I start losing. So
Yeah. Oh.
If you're an ice drunk, that's the most sporting award.
it's going to be a good one, and like props
It's
to
gonna be-
Will for being super organised with it, and I'm excited.
Also, props for Will for being the first person to do it, because
Yeah, like that's a big
Yeah.
Huge
thing.
shout out.
like it's gonna be good this year. Oh, you just moved your camera, so I gotta change it, Barney.
It's chill out, love.
But yeah, because it's the first time he's doing it. Obviously, no one really knows how it's gonna go, but the only way you can get better is by trying.
Yeah, I think it'll be really good.
Yeah. Will's events are always good, as far as I've heard.
I have enjoyed all of the ones I have been to. They have been great. Do you guys have any like hobby goals for this new year?
Oh,
That's...
I'm gonna try to win again some more. So as far as tournaments go, I'm
I thought
gonna.
you said you're gonna try and win a game. I was like,
Game, dude. Nah, let's not to get too far ahead of ourselves. No, I'm gonna try and. I think I'm gonna go. Let's shoot top 20. That might be too high, but for what I'm planning on, because I'm not sure I'll be able to get to loads of tournaments this year. But we'll shoot for top 20, and it'd be really, really cool if I could win a best paint. Like I think that's what I'm gonna try for. I'm not sure if it's gonna happen, to be honest, because people are so good at painting now. Like some of the armies you see about.
Mm-hmm.
I was really chuffed with my best
Say,
paint.
yeah, you
Sterling
got
win.
Sterling.
Yeah,
Well done.
but I think for me, I'd like to win a 100-point event because I've still not done that. And I'd really, really like to win a Palantir, but those are getting like they're so hard to acquire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are my main ones, I think. I'm not sure how much I'm going to end up competing this year, depending on work. But hopefully, I'll be able to get to a decent number of tournaments.
Yeah.
I'd like to try and get to a couple of 80-pointers because I generally haven't been going to those just because of the density of 100-pointers.
Yeah.
So hopefully, I'll be able to get to one or two of those this year as well, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Gethin?
I have no idea, honestly. I think my main thing is I don't know how many events I'll be attending this year once again because of work and money and life and stuff. I think the only two that I've got secured so far is GT and Stockport because can't attend Cardiff now.
Can you not?
Nah.
What? Betrayed. Why not?
Money.
But you don't want to. Ah, okay, fair enough.
Don't know. So yeah, apart from that, those are the only two confirmed, and then probably Sterling.
I'm gonna try and get to Stockport, but I doubt it's gonna happen.
Have you got any hobbying goals, Gethin, or are you just?
I'd like to finish Motherhood. Placement wise and the league, not really anything. I'd like to continue because with Chester we try to do an event every quarter, so once again try and do an event every quarter for the Chester tournaments, or the Chester scene. Yeah, I guess that's really it for goals. Yeah.
Awesome.
So I guess unless anyone has anything else to say about the year, those couple of questions, and then if anyone in chat has any questions, feel free to ask, and then we can end up the stream. So questions we've got 4 questions from Leon Curry. So thank you, Leon, for the questions. First one up is, which factions would you consider to be the strongest for good and evil? All faction combinations.
I like elves. We've been over this.
Like
Elves in general, I think, look really, really strong right now.
How are we gonna say strongest? Strongest for anyone or strongest for the best players? As in, like, what list do we think are going to be doing the best in tournaments, or what list do we think is the best?
I think that some form of elves is always going to be in the top tables for good, just because I think they're still like really well costed. Still, 5/5 is still amazing. Like I don't think much has changed. Their heroes have got a little bit more diverse and like a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Like some of their heroes have got a little bit worse, but most of them on the whole have got better.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. I'd say for evil, I mean, I think Moria is absolutely crackers for the amount of like support units and choice you get and ways you can build your army. And I'd probably also give a shout out to Angmar. I think Angmar's going to be big once people start sort of working out how that army comes together. That's kind of where I'd be for green, is like Moria and Angmar for evil, and then some of the elves, and maybe out to Lake Town as well for like just pure lists. Well, obviously we've talked about Iron Hills, but I'm not sure that they're as good as the other two.
Definitely strong list, but not the most competitive.
Yeah, and then Yellow Alliances. I don't know where we're going to end up with Yellow Alliances. I reckon it's going to take quite a while before people start really exploiting any kind of proper interactions.
I like how you're shouting elves and say the game changed like fundamentally in a way that benefits them. Like before, you wanted a wizard, and then your warriors were just like decent troops that held the line, because you needed to save the points to get those like wizards in, basically. Whereas now you don't need to do that so much anymore.
Yeah.
You can just take good warband leaders rather than just passable warband leaders. So now elves can jump into their 150-point heroes and they are being taxed on their warbands. I think for yellow alliances, to make an early shot, I think dropping in 1 or 2 Candice chariots, like 2 chieftains on chariot, is going to be pretty good. It's a lot of points, but they're really strong. So that's my guess.
Yeah, I think there's quite a lot of spicy drop heroes in this edition, like Candice Chariots, Arwen on Asphalath, Kurdan. Like, quite a few of the new heroes that are like reasonably ally matrixed and reasonably powerful enough to have play on their own. To see, like, I think the Shade is going to start once people have worked out that actually it hasn't been nerfed. It's still good. You're probably going to see again the Shade with other things lists. And I'm interested to see if they'll be any good.
Yeah, I think, definitely agree with the elves and Moria stuff. Moria's got so many tools that you can do loads of different things with them. Gonna throw out the elf Rohan. Just throw it in the kit.
His horse, like, you'll be good to go.
It doesn't need a horse. Come on.
You said you weren't attending many tournaments, though, so they can't possibly play high because you're the only one that plays.
Surprisingly enough, I'm not. I may not be the only person to play them this year. I've spoken to a couple of people who are thinking about it this year. Like, no joke. And they're good players, so better watch out for Cardiff. That's all I'm saying. Also, I hope people actually take them to Cardiff, because I've got a bet with Dave Clubley that Helmingers will come top 10%, I think we said, and I'm no longer attending, so...
So you already lost that.
Yeah, I may have already lost that bet. But yeah, I'm trying to think, is there any... As the armies as a whole, I can't think of anything other things. I think we'll see... I don't know. I like the idea of dropping Gollum in lists again, especially with the nerf. I think the ring's really strong, even stronger now because of the nerfs to immobilize, not halving fight. So Gollum's pretty good. To an extent, I think Rivendell Bilbo is underrated. 40 points to drop in a ring is pretty strong. Obviously, movement 4 is an issue.
The problem with him is that you're looking at 40 points for Bilbo and Arwen's 60 and Cerdon's 80, and I think you want them first most of the time.
And then also in the same ballpark. Slightly more expensive, but slightly better. Bilbo and Pony from Thorin's Company. But yeah, once again, that's just that's a bit more of a meme. Some meme picks that probably aren't going to hit competitive, but I think could be quite interesting to drop.
I think the Bilbo thing might have legs. Like,
Yeah.
interesting enough profile that it could see some play. I know that like Huckvale was a big proponent of Gollum in the previous edition. Like the
Oh, he was super good in the old edition.
Well, it's like when I played at Sterling, playing against Joshua Bryan, and I had Gollum and 2 Hunter against Aragorn, torn shreds. It's like, okay.
when I played, when me and Huckvale played against Larry and Ben Bailey at Seven Stones, Gollum killed more models than Gwahir, Gandalf the White, and 3 Eagles. Killed 3.
Yeah. Fair enough. I guess there's not much else to say. Do you think there's any, I don't know, any sleeper heroes at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Anything that isn't being played? Maybe
Boromir with the banner of the White Tower.
Not seen a lot.
Absolutely disgusting.
I haven't seen him yet.
He will show up.
He will show
Him
up.
leading guard of the Fountain Court is disgusting.
Yeah.
Not seen a lot of fiefdoms that we were expecting. Like, where's the Imrahil and Forlong mounted nonsense?
Did Forlong get re-released?
I think he did
I
actually.
think he was one of the ones that got re-released. So yeah, I might see more
He
of him.
doesn't have a horse, but like the horse, if you can make a horse version, like that model is really good now.
Yeah.
But I've not seen a lot of him.
Durin with half guard.
There's not been Durin with half guard. Not seen any of that yet.
Chris
I've played.
Finale.
Oh yeah, Chris Murphy. I've played that once and it was really good. I've played the Forlong Imrahil all mounted once and it was pretty good. But yeah, you'd expect them to show up and they just haven't.
What else is there that I have?
The Tainted, I haven't seen, and I think he's really good.
That's a very good point. Tainted, I think, is like one of the best.
We played some test games of the Tainted. I think he'll definitely be an interesting model. I've only played against one Gothmog so far, but I think I've like been massively below average on the amount of Gothmogs I've played against.
Yeah, he'll show up. Yeah. I think Amda's really good.
Yeah, Will was saying that he thought that the Eastern list he played at Sterling was actually really, really good.
Wasn't Edge thinking about dropping Amda into the Far-Beast lists?
Yeah, I think so.
Spicy.
Because banner and stuff.
Yeah. We're like Ed's
self-banner.
He's not sure like where he's going with like the higher points of it yet. He's like really happy with the low points version he has because obviously he won on event with them. Yeah. But he's interested to see what happens at 800. He needs a few more tournaments where like they can actually be played because a lot of the tournaments now have some caveats that stop you from doing that kind of nonsense. But I imagine when we start testing for the ETC, that will be one of the things that we have to work out.
What kind
of a viable list version of it? That'll be interesting.
What about the Mummic War Leader? Do you think he's...
Mummic War Leader's crackers. Like, that model is insanely grim. I can totally see there being a competitive list with that. Similarly, on the topic of War Beasts, I've not seen anywhere near as many Great Beasts of Gorgoroth as I was expecting, because that one was...
I think the only person I've seen run of them was Rob Alderman at the Throne of Skulls. I don't think I've seen anyone.
Callum Eden's playing one. Yeah, Callum Eden's played one at a doubles tournament with Dave Clubley, and there was one at the first Cardiff tournament.
Yeah. I just hate those kind of models because they break so much of the game and it's so hard to... It's like the thing we were talking about before where it's like the start of the game you work out what the terrain is.
Changes the way the game is played. Yeah.
Well, it's like at the start of the game you're like, okay, this piece of terrain is going to be this, if cock dice this. It's like there's so many things with those models where they do something, you think it's going to work like A, but actually your opponent thinks it's going to work like B, but the TO thinks it's going to work like C, and it's just like, well, you never... I don't know. It's such a annoying model to have in the game, but it's fun.
Yeah,
It's really annoying. I sigh every time I see it.
Yeah.
But...
We'll see. I'm not sure that they're going to become highly popularized.
No.
Anything else I think's
I
underrated?
think one thing, I guess, linking into Leon's second question. Second question is, what do you think of Corsair Reavers? Too easy to kill or still very competitive?
Corsair Reavers are
They're
freaking.
still good.
They're so good.
Yeah. I think David Farmer's the only person who's taken them to an event so far.
He's the only person that I've seen that's like been playing them actively. He played them against Ed and like looked like he was giving Ed a bit of a run for his money at the first Cardiff tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Dalamir is amazing.
Yeah, that was right.
Like, yeah.
He's always been good though.
I think there's definitely a list there, and it's on my like radar of things that I'd like to try this year. Is pirates, because pirates are fun.
Yeah.
They also have crossbows. Crossbows are awesome.
And throwing weapons across the board.
Yeah, crossbows and throwing weapons, like it's all sweet.
Yeah, I'd still say that they're still very good. Obviously, they're still easy to kill. But
I think they're different.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, is what I would say about them. Like, they're not as ludicrously overpowered as they were, but they fulfill an actual role now rather than just being a good stuff unit, and that's awesome. I'd much rather they have some flavour to them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't put them with my Isengard anymore. Oh. So third question from Leon was, how do you deal with a Rivendell army with several Wrath of Bruinen casters if you are playing evil? Sapwell?
With a Witch King with a crown, and he just kills Arwen. And then, I don't know, it's so hard. Like, they can just move to a point where you can't resist.
Yeah.
So, like, your crossbow army is a pretty reasonable shout in a lot of scenarios.
Yeah.
Like, because you just outshoot them because they don't have space for a blinding light effect.
They can with Serdan, depending on the points value.
Yeah, but then you've got like a random old man on foot in your army of all mounted things.
Oh,
like,
as you say?
Oh no, this is just General Rivendell.
Oh, is this just General Rivendell with Wrath of Bruinen?
Yeah.
So like with Arwen and Elrond in the same list.
So like.
So it could be foot, it could be mounted.
Armored Galathrim, pretty good because they're all resistant to magic. So sometimes
with evil.
For evil.
Oh, for evil.
Yeah, as Josh said, the Witch King with crown.
Witch King's a good shout. Anything with long distance pressure. So like any ring wraith on Felbeast. Sauron.
Chill Soul, just.
Yeah.
Candice Chariots.
Candice Chariots.
They don't get knocked over by it.
A Drazag Warband with Bat Swarms has been one of the ways that I've been dealing with them, is just like enrage a Bat Swarm, put it on Arwen, or not even just tag her so that she can't do what she wants to do. What else is there?
Maybe a Shade?
Smaug, Shade.
A Shade may not be too bad because obviously when you get knocked down you just have the Shade there to stop them killing you guys.
Spread your heroes that have a reasonable shot at resisting out.
Yeah, Shade's an 8-will model.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well one thing, because last edition I ran a list with a lot of Nature's Wraths, one of the worst things that my opponent could do, one of the worst things for me, the best things for them, was putting their heroes in the first and second rank. A lot of people are scared to put their heroes in the first rank because they won't die. I can't, like, it's the thing of, sometimes I can't risk casting Nature's Wrath if your hero's in the way, because you may resist it. And especially with, like, Arwen, if they've got no strength and will, she's going to do it, like, once or twice, you don't want to waste it. So, if they're doing it optimally, you can resist it. If they're not doing it optimally, they'll hit, like, a couple of your front guys. But that's it. It's actually a good way. Especially if you're playing evil, you got a bunch of, like, captains and stuff. Like, put Grishnak on the front line, you got 3 might and a will point.
Mm-hmm.
That's
just
pretty
threaten
good.
the resist and try and force them to take, like, less optimal areas.
It's still, obviously,
it's a
very
tough
strong,
matchup.
But...
It's like a disgusting spell, so.
And then the final question is maybe a bit of a troll one, but he may be serious at the same time. At 550 points, Bolgon Warg and 15 Warbats. Is it just silly or could this win games?
It sounds silly.
But it could win games? Because 15 Warbats flying over your lines, picking up models and dropping them.
I think Warbats are pretty good as like a 2-of. Between 1 and 3 Warbats in a Gundabad list looks really good, but
15 maybe a bit too many, Leon.
yeah, I think you're pushing it.
I think Warbats are, speaking of underrated units,
Yep.
are gonna be one of the things that, especially once they get a model,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
a big old game changer.
Yep.
I mean, I already think that the Goblin mercenaries are underplayed.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
broken.
they're so
Mercenaries are so
good.
broken.
Oh my.
Those rolls are ridiculous.
I love them. Like,
I hate them.
they're so good. What was it? We played a game of Recon. You were Army the Dead against my evil allied warband of
I
mercenaries.
couldn't move more than
can
7
move.
inches onto the board because he had 2 pieces of terrain near my board edge, and I would have just let 13 guys walk off the board.
Yeah.
It's like, what? And I don't think they should do that in scenarios like Recon and Storm the Camp.
Well, Barney, you took him to the ETC, didn't you? And you were like, does this river count as an illegible piece of terrain? The piece that is connected to both board edges.
The TO had to declare the river that ran down the middle of the board an ineligible piece of terrain, because otherwise my opponent would have had to deploy his entire army in the river to stop me from walking off the board on turn 1. Just spectacular.
Oh, that was great. Yeah. But no, I think they're good. But yeah. It's definitely going to be interesting seeing how, like, as I said when we did our first stream, it's still going to be a while now till we see a meta. We may not see a meta form in 2019. It may be next year that we see it actually form. Because the big bad, like, at the moment, the big things are Moria, Rivendell, and Iron Hills to an extent. But someone at, like, Stockport, the GT, may come along with a massive counter and just be like, oh, these are actually useless.
I'm not sure even Moria is the big thing. Like, I'm talking about it a bunch, but there's not actually, like, at the opener, for example, I'm the only player who's playing Moria.
Well, I think I had a look at the stats for, like, what army's been played and stuff, and the most successful evil army's definitely been Moria. Is he?
You cut out, sorry, for me. Most successful evil armies.
Most successful evil army so far at tournaments has been Moria or Sauron.
Yeah.
Okay.
So at lower points where you can't fit Sauron in, it looks like Moria's a big thing. But then I don't know if people, because once again I think Good got a lot more of the like initial cool changes. Like on the surface they look really cool and stuff. So we may see some things changing. And also, Evil's got a lot of cool little things like Druzag Warband, Reavers, Chariots, that are...
That's harder to make because it has a lot more effort behind it. It's not necessarily just the sort of a lot easier to see where the good stuff is.
I think Evil may have a higher skill cap.
Possibly.
Some of the interesting stuff.
More interesting utility units just for the virtue of the fact that they've got to have something that gives them some character.
Yeah.
So they don't have as many big choppy heroes, but they do have more stuff that does stuff. Which is why I play evil armies over good armies generally, because I enjoy the stuff that does stuff.
Stuff is
good.
I'll
probably go play Angmar at some point, because Spectres, Yeah.
So yeah,
in stuff, I'm waiting for the new book. The new book will probably change everything again, and then I imagine at some point we'll get another new book, and that'll change stuff, and everything will keep changing, and that'll be great because we'll
That'd be
just
perfect.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it slightly hinted that it's going to the west? The west.
Yeah, he said east, and then apparently he said it was wrong. He meant west.
But then, how? Like what's west from Gondor more?
Literally everything.
Right? Everything. Like,
everything.
Isengard, fiefdoms.
I don't know. Like, what like big areas would they want to revisit? Like my guess to the west. Right?
I think so the big ones would be Isengard, Rohan.
Yeah, so like some kind of deep something.
Going back to Erebor, but that's unlikely.
No,
I think and then Arnor.
Like put bets on would be like some kind of Helm's Deep something, some kind or 3 actually, some kind of return to Khazad-dûm because
I think that's one they'll do. Yeah.
And also maybe some kind of return to the Scouring of the Shire because people love that book as well. So like I think that's where I'd be guessing.
Arnor, they could do like a Ruin of Arnor thing.
Yeah, I was thinking Arnor maybe as well.
Gundabad's is Gundabad up there?
Who knows?
What they're trying to do, if they're trying to get the license for the TV show which comes out in a million years, that's set in Arnor. So it might not be unsensible of them to start putting some pre-work in for some kind of new Arnor to go with old Arnor if they ever get that. But that's like really speculative.
Yep.
But it's definitely safe to say that there's going to be a lot of stuff for the next couple of years.
There's going to be shit to buy.
Be patient because, like, I think one thing is people don't understand how small the team is. People expect a lot more than they can pump out. It's like, manage your expectations because there's one rules writer, there's one product manager, and there's 2 full-time designers, and then a couple of other people help them. It's like,
and there's not that many of us that play the game. Like, in all seriousness, like we're a pretty small community. Like, all you have to do is go and sit in Games Workshop for a couple hours. You'll see about 20, 30 people come in. Probably not a single one of them will play Lord of the Rings. The one that's come in that plays Lord of the Rings is you.
Yeah.
So
they'll probably have models. Most wargamers have some kind of Lord of the Rings models, but they're probably in a box in the attic somewhere.
Yeah, most people don't play this game, so we can't expect loads of releases. No. I'm just happy that the ones we're getting are so good.
The fact that we're getting releases is amazing.
Yeah. It's like they're good releases as well.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm really happy recently.
Yeah. And on that note, Josh is really happy. I think that's probably a good way to...
Yeah, for once, Josh is happy. But yeah. Unless there's any further questions from anyone in the chat, I guess. Well, I guess in case anyone does have questions they can think about. What are you guys doing next then? Because obviously, Barney, you're at the Ripon this weekend.
Yeah, I'm at the opener and then I'm at the GT. That's my plans.
Then Josh, you're Cardiff
GT probably. When's Beacons?
July this year.
Wow, that's late.
Yeah.
I'll probably do that.
Well, there'll be a Chester event in the next 3 months, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, those are my plans.
Yeah. So yeah, mine will be GT organising the Chester event, and then I think Stockport's the next one after that. But yeah.
Awesome.
I think that's everything. We'll be going for over 3 hours. So
yeah, this one's been a long one.
Yeah. Hopefully a lot of painting's been done. If not now, if on YouTube later. But yeah.
I feel like I should bring some painting to do while we're on the podcast. I feel like I get so much done.
I was gonna say, I remember when I did a few with Dan Entwistle, I think he had like models that he was just sitting there building, like painting and stuff, and he was on push to talk. So obviously there was no like background noise or anything. But yeah, he used to get stuff done.
Paint pots.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we'll start doing that, Josh. But yeah. So yeah, I guess. Thanks everyone for watching. If you've enjoyed, please follow the channel, hop over to YouTube and subscribe to our channel. Hop over to Cheshire. We've also got a Facebook page. Also, if you're interested, Barney's got a awesome page called Grey Havens.
Yeah, it's the Grey Havens.
So awesome, he can't remember the name.
I mean,
I can barely remember the name.
Yeah, he posts up occasionally some of his painted stuff.
It's awesome. There will be more content coming onto it soon when I get all of my hobby stuff reorganised and can start painting again. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. Chris Murphy's done the dishes and tidied his house, so definitely worth it for him. But yeah, so thanks everyone for watching, and me and Josh will probably do another one, maybe in a month, chat about Cardiff, probably about the Gondor Warbook.
Yeah, I'm a bit busy over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, whenever, because obviously you got uni stuff, but we will definitely sort one out in the future. So
after Cardiff, maybe, because then I can talk about that.
So yeah, thanks everyone for coming along. Thanks Barney for joining us, and catch you all next time.
Bye everyone.
Yeah.